Welcome, brave souls, to the misty forests and fog-covered cities of Washington. Tonight, we step beyond the realm of ordinary travel and check into places where the night never ends and the guests never truly leave. Hotels are supposed to be safe havens, a place to rest, refresh, and move on. But in Washington, some hotels carry the weight of tragic history, mysterious disappearances, and restless spirits. The corridors are long, the rooms echo with whispers, and the past refuses to stay behind. Guests who check in may find themselves followed by unseen eyes, awakened by cold hands on their shoulders, or trapped in a night that seems to have no dawn. Tonight, we explore 25 haunted hotels in Washington that never let guests leave. From historic downtown inns to remote mountain lodges, each location has a story steeped in tragedy, mystery, and lingering spirits. Some encounters are documented, others whispered, but all share one chilling truth. In these hotels, checkout is never guaranteed. So dim the lights, lock your door, and join me as we walk the shadowed halls of Washington's most haunted hotels. If you dare. The Oxford Hotel in Seattle once stood as a testament to Victorian elegance and refinement, its ornate facade gleaming beneath the city's ever-shifting skies. Built in the late 1800s, the hotel quickly became a landmark of luxury, hosting travelers, artists, and high society guests who sought both comfort and culture in the heart of a growing metropolis. Yet behind its polished woodwork and crystal chandeliers, the Oxford carried an unsettling undercurrent of presence that, even now, refuses to leave. The story of the Oxford's haunting begins with its original owner, Charles Whitmore, a businessman known for his charm and ambition. Whitmore was deeply invested in the success of his establishment, often personally greeting guests in the grand lobby or overseeing staff late into the night. But in 1903, his life came to a sudden and inexplicable end. He was found dead in his private suite on the top floor. The cause uncertain. Some said it was suicide brought on by financial troubles. Others whispered that he was poisoned by a rival, or perhaps by someone much closer to him. The details were hazy, and the official report heart failure did little to quiet the rumors. What followed were years of decline. As Seattle modernized, the Oxford began to lose its luster. The roaring jazz of the 1920s filled its ballroom. But after Prohibition and economic hardship struck, the music faded. By the mid-20th century, the hotel had become a shadow of its former self, serving as a boarding house for transient workers and weary travelers. Yet throughout every era, one thing remained: constant stories of strange occurrences that defied explanation. Guests often reported hearing laughter and piano music echoing through the corridors, long after the lounge had closed. Cleaning staff would enter empty rooms, only to find furniture rearranged or glasses shattered on the floor. One night, clerk recalled hearing a soft tapping sound outside the lobby, only to find the old grand piano playing by itself, the melody faint but deliberate. When he approached, the music stopped, leaving only the echo of his own breath in the silent hall. Perhaps the most unnerving encounters occur in the upper floors, where Whitmore's private suite once stood. The fourth floor is said to be the most active. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature, flickering lights, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Some guests have awakened in the middle of the night to see a shadow standing near their bed, a tall figure in period clothing with a faint outline of a hat. When they blink, he vanishes, leaving only the lingering scent of old cologne and cigar smoke. Several paranormal investigators have visited the Oxford over the decades, drawn by its growing reputation. One group, exploring the building in the 1990s, claimed to have captured unexplained voices on their recorders. A deep male voice whispered the words, "Still here," just before a loud slam echoed through the hall, though no doors had been opened or closed. Another team reported seeing a translucent figure near the grand staircase, its movements slow and deliberate, as though pacing in thought. Former employees tell of doors that lock themselves, keys that go missing, and lights that flicker only in rooms connected to Whitmore's old quarters. A housekeeper once described entering room 412 to find the bed neatly made, even though no guests had stayed there for weeks. On the night she checked again, the bedspread had been pulled back, as though someone had just climbed in. She quit her job soon after, refusing to set foot on that floor again. In recent years, as the building underwent partial restoration, construction crews encountered their own share of eerie moments. Tools went missing, only to reappear in locked closets. One worker swore he saw a man watching him from a balcony that had been closed off for decades. When he shouted, the figure simply turned and walked through the wall. Another worker, painting one of the hallways, felt a sudden cold wind sweep past him, despite every window being sealed. He looked down to find a faint handprint pressed into the wet paint beside him. Local legends say that Whitmore's spirit remains tied to the Oxford, bound by unfinished business. Some believe he still patrols the halls to ensure his beloved hotel is maintained with dignity. Others think he lingers out of regret, searching for answers to his own mysterious death. A few even suggest that not all who died in the Oxford have left their art. Stories of former guests who checked in but never checked out. One such tale involves a woman named Evelyn Carter, who stayed at the Oxford in 1915. She was a pianist, performing nightly in the hotel's lounge, and was rumored to have had a secret affair with Whitmore himself. After his death, she continued to play, her mournful melodies echoing through the building each evening. But one winter night, she vanished without a trace. Her room was left untouched, the piano bench still warm as though she had just risen. No one ever found her, and yet, guests claim that her music still drifts through the halls on quiet nights, soft, elegant, and filled with sorrow. Today, the Oxford stands as a relic of old Seattle, a building whose walls seem to breathe with memories. Its restored exterior hides a restless energy that refuses to fade. Tourists who pass by rarely notice the subtle flicker of a light in an empty window or the faint strains of piano music carried on the breeze. But those who have stayed there speak differently. They tell of waking in the dark to the sound of footsteps pacing outside their door, of feeling a hand brush their shoulder in an empty room, of whispers calling their name when no one else is near. The Meany Hotel in Seattle has stood for more than a century, its stone facade overlooking the city with quiet dignity. Once considered one of the finest places to stay near Pike Place Market, it now carries a reputation that is far less inviting. For generations, guests and employees have whispered about the strange things that happen inside its walls. Lights that flicker without cause, reflections of people who vanish when approached, and the unmistakable chill of a presence unseen. The hotel was originally built in the early 1900s by a wealthy businessman named Harold Meany, who envisioned it as a symbol of modern elegance and sophistication. The building's marble floors, grand staircase, and detailed woodwork reflected the opulence of a new century. Meany himself lived in the top-floor suite, overseeing operations and entertaining prominent guests. But his ambition came at a cost. He was rumored to have been ruthless with his staff, firing employees without hesitation and alienating partners with his sharp tongue and colder temperament. When Meany was found dead in his office in 1918, slumped over his desk with no signs of struggle, the coroner ruled it a heart attack. Yet those who knew him whispered that he had been haunted by guilt, tormented by something he could not escape. After Meany's death, strange events began almost immediately. Housekeepers reported hearing footsteps in the empty upper corridors. Guests complained of whispers outside their rooms in the middle of the night. The elevator, newly installed at the time, would sometimes move between floors on its own, its doors opening to reveal nothing but cold air. Employees tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but the stories continued to multiply. By the 1930s, the hotel had already earned a reputation among locals as being a place where the past docenti rest. Musicians who performed in the hotel lounge would tell of hearing applause when no one was there. A night clerk once described seeing the reflection of a man in a bowler hat in the lobby mirror, only to realize that no one else was in the room. Some visitors even claimed that photographs taken in the hotel showed hazy outlines of faces hovering in the background. Perhaps the most frequently reported phenomenon at the Meany Hotel involves the mirrors. Guests describe catching glimpses of people standing behind them, people who disappear the instant they turn around. These reflections often show figures in outdated clothing, their expressions solemn or curious, as if they are watching from another time. One traveler recalled brushing his teeth in the bathroom when he noticed a woman in a dark gown standing in the mirror's reflection. She was only a few feet behind him, her face pale and her eyes distant. When he spun around, the room was empty. He checked every corner, even under the bed, but found nothing. When he turned back toward the mirror, the glass was fogged, except for one clear spot where a faint handprint had appeared. Another common occurrence is the unexplained movement of furniture. Chairs are found pulled out from tables, rocking slightly as if someone has just stood up. Lamps have been known to flicker or turn off entirely, even when the bulbs are new. Guests in the older wing of the building report hearing the creak of footsteps pacing the hall outside their door, followed by a knock that fades before anyone can answer. One longtime employee claimed that, late one night, all of the lobby chairs slid backward at once, scraping across the tile in perfect unison. He quit the next morning. Cold spots are another hallmark of the Mini's lingering unease. Even during warm summer months, guests sometimes describe sudden drops in temperature so sharp that their breath becomes visible. The air feels heavy, thick with a sense of anticipation, as though someone unseen is standing nearby. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site say the coldest area is the hallway leading to room 314. The room Harold Meany once occupied. Some visitors report hearing faint music or muffled conversation coming from inside, though the room has been unoccupied for decades. One of the more chilling stories involves a couple who stayed at the Meany during the 1970s. They had come to Seattle for a weekend trip and chose the hotel for its location and charm. On their second night, they were awakened by the sound of running water. When the husband checked the bathroom, the sink and shower were both on full blast, the steam fogging the mirror. As he reached to turn them off, he saw his own reflection and, behind it, the faint outline of another man's face, watching him closely. The couple checked out before sunrise. There are also tales of an elderly bellhop who appears to assist guests, carrying invisible luggage down the hall. Witnesses describe him as polite and cheerful, but when they try to thank him, he fades from view. One woman recounted seeing him tip his hat and smile before vanishing through a closed door. The hotel no longer employs bellhops, and records show that the last man to hold the position died in 1947. Those who have researched the Meany's history suggest that the hauntings might stem from more than one tragedy. During renovations in the 1950s, a worker reportedly fell from the third floor and died instantly. His death was ruled accidental, but ever since, guests have heard the sound of heavy boots echoing in the stairwell, followed by the faint thud of something falling. Others believe that the building's location so close to the market and the waterfront may have absorbed layers of emotional residue from generations of Seattle's working class, creating a place where past and present occasionally overlapped. Despite its reputation, the Meany Hotel continues to attract visitors, some drawn by curiosity, others unaware of the building's dark charm. The management maintains a polite silence about the ghost stories, though employees quietly admit that the activity is real. One former night manager confessed that, even after years of working there, he refused to take the elevator alone after midnight. He claimed that every time the doors closed, he could feel someone standing directly behind him, breathing softly in the dark. To this day, passers-by walking near Pike Place Market sometimes glance up to see a light flicker in one of the Meany's upper windows. They say it's just a reflection, perhaps from the neon glow of the market below. But others know better. They've heard the faint laughter carried on the wind, the whisper of music from a room that no longer hosts guests. The Meany Hotel stands as both relic and reminder that in certain places, time doesn't move forward. It folds back on itself. And for those who dare to stay the night, the line between the living and the dead can feel thinner than the glass of a mirror, waiting only for a reflection to blink and vanish. The Salish Lodge sits like a watchful guardian above Snoqualmie Falls, its timbered frame blending into the mist that forever rises from the cascading waters below. Visitors come from around the world to experience the breathtaking view and the soothing sound of the falls. But those who stay overnight often speak of something else, something unseen, yet undeniably present. Behind the lodge's warm lighting and rustic charm lingers a darker legacy, whispered through the halls by those who swear the past still moves among them. The land where the Salish Lodge now stands has long been considered sacred by the Snoqualmie people, who believed the falls were a spiritual gateway where human souls transitioned into the afterlife. Long before the lodge was built, tribal elders warned that the mist carried whispers from beyond the veil. When the original inn opened in 1916, it was meant as a place of rest for travelers. But even in its earliest days, guests reported strange experiences. Some heard singing in the night when no one else was awake. Others awoke to find their windows fogged over, handprints appearing on the glass as if from the outside looking in. Over the years, tragedy seemed to cling to the lodge. Several guests were said to have taken their own lives by leaping from the cliffs into the churning waters below. The reasons varied: lost love, financial ruin, despair, but each story ended the same way. A body found at the river's edge, the roar of the falls masking the cries that preceded it. Locals soon began to believe the spirits of those who died here had never truly left. Even now, some say that if you stand near the edge of the viewing platform at night, you can hear faint sobbing beneath the thunder of the water. Inside the lodge, reports of strange phenomena are almost constant. Guests describe flickering lights that dim and brighten without cause, even when maintenance crews find no electrical faults. Others speak of cold spots that drift through hallways like invisible clouds, bringing with them a sudden heaviness in the air. One couple recalled being awakened by the sound of soft footsteps outside their door, followed by a whisper low and close as if someone were speaking directly into their ears. When they opened the door, the hallway was empty. Housekeepers and staff to tell of encounters that defy explanation. One attendant, cleaning a guest room near the top floor, said she felt a presence behind her and turned to see a tall shadow reflected in the window. She spun around, but there was no one there. When she looked back at the glass, the reflection still lingered for a moment before dissolving into the mist. Another employee reported hearing a woman humming softly in the laundry room when she was alone. The melody was gentle and sad, and when she followed the sound, it stopped abruptly. She never entered that room again after dark. There are stories of objects moving by themselves, chairs sliding across the floor, glasses tipping over when no one is near, doors that refuse to stay shut. In some rooms, particularly those facing the falls, guests claim to hear knocking sounds coming from inside the walls. A few have even said that the knocking follows a pattern, almost like a heartbeat. When staff investigated, they found nothing: no pipes, no loose fixtures, nothing that could explain the sound. Perhaps the most unsettling legend tied to the Salish Lodge involves a woman known simply as the Bride. In the early 1920s, a young couple honeymooned at the lodge. According to records, the bride disappeared the morning after their arrival. Her husband, distraught, searched the grounds for days before she was discovered at the base of the falls, her veil still tangled in the rocks. The official story called it an accident, but many believe she jumped deliberately. Ever since, guests have reported seeing a figure in white drifting through the mist near the waterfall. Her outline faint and wavering, her face hidden behind a veil of water. During the 1970s, when the lodge underwent renovations, construction crews began to experience their own encounters. Tools vanished and reappeared in locked rooms, footsteps echoed in the rafters, and some workers refused to stay after sunset. One foreman claimed he saw a woman standing at the far end of a corridor one evening. Thinking she was a guest, he called out to her, but she simply turned and walked through the closed door. When he opened it, the room beyond was empty. Even in modern times, the paranormal reputation of the Salish Lodge has not faded. Guests sharing their experiences online often describe the same sensations: cold drafts in sealed rooms, lights turning on and off, and a constant feeling of being watched. Some mention seeing faint shapes moving within the mist outside their windows, as though people were walking through the air, just beyond the glass. Others say they hear faint laughter drifting through the walls, or the echo of voices calling their names. One of the most chilling reports came from a family staying in a suite overlooking the falls. They were awakened around 2 a.m. by the sound of a piano playing somewhere below. The haunting melody rose and fell for several minutes before fading away. When the father went to investigate, he found the lounge deserted and the piano covered by its dust cloth. Surveillance cameras later confirmed that no one had entered or left that area during the time of the incident. Many visitors describe an emotional weight upon entering the property, as if the air itself remembers sorrow. Psychics who have visited the lodge claim that the energy of the falls amplifies the presence of spirits, keeping them tethered to this world. They believe the constant motion of the water acts like a mirror reflecting both life and death, past and present, in endless repetition. Yet not all who encounter the unexplained at the Salish Lodge feel fear. Some speak of a deep, peaceful melancholy, a sense that the spirits are not angry, but simply trapped in a moment they can escape. For others, the experience is more unsettling, a reminder that beauty and tragedy often share the same space. As night falls and mist rises over the roaring cascade, the lodge seems to blur into its surroundings, its lights flickering like fireflies in the fog. Visitors sitting by the window might feel a chill brush their neck or hear the faintest whisper carried by the wind. Whether these are echoes of restless souls or just a natural symphony of water and air, the feeling is undeniable. The Salish Lodge stands as a place where the veil between worlds feels fragile, where the beauty of the falls hides something timeless, an unseen and eternal whisper that never fades with the dawn. The Elliott Hotel in Seattle is one of those places that feels alive, even when it's completely silent. Its polished wooden floors, vintage fixtures, and softly glowing chandeliers suggest elegance and comfort, but beneath that charm lies a presence that refuses to rest. For decades, guests and employees alike have whispered about strange events that defy explanation, rooms that rearrange themselves, footsteps in empty hallways, and fleeting figures that appear only in mirrors. Built in 1923, the Elliott was meant to be a grand refuge for travelers arriving by train or ferry. Situated near the waterfront, it quickly became a favorite among businessmen, performers, and tourists, drawn to Seattle's growing reputation as a city of opportunity. Its thick carpets muted the sounds of the bustling streets below, while its upper floors offered sweeping views of the harbor. Yet even during its early years, stories of unusual occurrences began to spread. Guests complained of furniture shifting in the night, or waking to find their luggage moved across the room. Staff blamed overactive imaginations, or perhaps a mischievous porter. But as the years went on, the accounts grew harder to dismiss. The first major incident on record occurred in 1928, when a guest staying in room 314 reported waking to find all of her belongings stacked neatly in the center of the room. The chairs were arranged in a circle around the pile, and her shoes, every pair, were lined up against the wall facing inward. She had locked her door before sleeping and found no sign of forced entry. The hotel manager apologized and offered to move her to another suite, but she declined, checking out instead. That same week, another guest reported seeing a reflection of a man standing behind her in the mirror above the vanity. When she turned, the room was empty. By the 1940s, employees had begun referring to the building as Night Walker, a name given to the unseen presence that moved through the halls after dark. Housekeepers working late claimed to hear footsteps pacing just beyond their sight, always stopping when they turned around. The sound of keys jingling and doors clicking open became so common that some staff carried small charms or crosses for protection. One bellhop told of taking the elevator to the 4th floor only to have the doors open to an empty hallway filled with the scent of cigar smoke. He heard a faint cough, then the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps approaching. When he stepped forward, the lights flickered and the hallway fell silent. It was around this time that the hotel's mirrors began to draw particular attention. Guests described seeing faces in the glass, sometimes clear, sometimes faint and blurred by fog. These reflections never matched anyone currently in the room. One businessman from Chicago claimed he saw a woman in a dark dress standing over his shoulder, her eyes hollow and her expression mournful. When he turned to speak, she was gone. The next morning, he found the mirror had developed a thin crack running from corner to corner. In the decades that followed, the Elliots' haunting reputation only deepened. During renovations in the 1970s, construction crews reported tools going missing and reappearing in locked storage rooms. One worker claimed to see a man in a waistcoat standing at the end of a hallway. Thinking it was another employee, he called out, but the figure turned and walked straight through a wall. A few days later, another worker fell from a scaffold after claiming he felt someone shove him from behind. No one else was nearby. Guests in the years since have shared remarkably similar experiences. They wake to find their furniture subtly rearranged or their suitcases moved to the opposite side of the room. Some have reported hearing the faint sound of piano music late at night, though there hasn't been a piano in the hotel for decades. Others describe the peculiar sensation of being watched, as though eyes follow them down the corridor. When they stop, the feeling stops. When they walk again, it returns. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a couple who stayed at the Elliott in the late 1990s. They awoke around 3 a.m. to the sound of someone moving around their room. The husband turned on the bedside lamp, revealing that the chairs had been pushed against the door, blocking it from the inside. As they sat frozen in confusion, the lights flickered, and the faint reflection of a man appeared in the mirror, tall, with a formal coat and hat. His face was expressionless. The husband shouted, and the reflection vanished instantly, though the temperature in the room dropped so sharply that their breath became visible. They left before sunrise. Several psychics who have visited the Elliott claim the hotel's energy is tied to a series of tragedies that took place during its early years. According to local archives, a fire in 1932 damaged the top floor, killing 2 guests who were trapped in their rooms. The original owner, a man named Bernard Haskett, died mysteriously in his office not long after. Some believe his spirit still roams the halls, ensuring his beloved establishment remains intact. Others think the restless souls of those who perished in the fire are still seeking peace, replaying their final moments again and again. Staff members who have worked there for years say they've learned to accept the activity as part of the building's character. One night manager admitted that he regularly hears someone pacing the hallway outside the office after midnight. When he checks the security cameras, the footage shows nothing. A housekeeper once left a cart unattended for a moment, only to return and find all the towels stacked perfectly on the bed, folded in a style she had never used. Another employee described feeling a sudden, overwhelming sadness while walking past room 314, followed by the faint sound of weeping from inside. The room was unoccupied. What makes the Elliott so unnerving is not loud, dramatic events, but the subtle, persistent disturbances that leave guests questioning their senses. The flicker of a light when no one touches the switch. The echo of footsteps that follow but never overtake. The feeling that, for a brief instant, a reflection in the mirror does not quite belong to you. Today, the Elliott Hotel still operates, beautifully maintained and welcoming to travelers who may not know its history. Yet those who do often approach its corridors with quiet respect, aware that they are sharing space with something or someone unseen. Locals say that if you pass by the hotel late at night and glance toward the windows, you might catch a glimpse of movement inside, a flicker of a figure, a hand pressed against the glass before it fades back into the dark. In the end, the Elliott remains one of Seattle's most enduring mysteries, a place where time and memory overlap in ways that defy logic. Whether the spirits that wander its halls are former guests, devoted caretakers, or echoes of the city's past, no one can say for sure. But those who stayed there agree on one thing. When the lights dim and the night deepens, the Elliott Hotel feels awake, quietly shifting and breathing, as though remembering everyone who ever walked its haunted halls. The Hotel Murano in Tacoma stands as a gleaming testament to modern art and luxury. Its sleek glasswork and contemporary design attracting guests from around the world. Yet beneath the polished elegance and curated ambiance lies a story that few visitors know, a story that reaches back to a time long before the building's transformation, when the land itself held the weight of something far darker. Before the Hotel Murano, there stood another structure, The Tacoma Grand Inn, a 19th century hotel that served travelers, sailors, and drifters. Its history, though mostly forgotten, lingers in whispers that have never truly faded. The Tacoma Grand Inn opened its doors in 1893 during a boom period when the city thrived as a port and railway hub. The inn was modest but charming, with wood-paneled walls, a cozy lobby, and a grand piano that stood near the fireplace. It became a home for transient workers, newlyweds, and merchants passing through. But as Tacoma grew, so too did its shadows. Reports of mysterious deaths began to surface. Travelers who checked in and never checked out, workers who vanished without explanation, and one tragic fire that claimed several lives in 1907. The inn was rebuilt, but it never quite escaped the weight of its past. Guests began to speak of strange noises in the hallways at night, soft crying, the rustle of unseen footsteps, and, most often, the sound of faint piano music drifting through the building long after midnight. By the mid-20th century, the old Tacoma Grand Inn had become a relic. Its walls creaked, its paint peeled, and its history was spoken of only in hushed tones. Locals swore that on quiet nights, if you stood across the street, you could see figures moving behind the curtained windows, even when the rooms were vacant. Some said they saw a woman in a long dress staring out from the top floor, her expression unreadable. Others reported seeing a man in a dark suit standing perfectly still by the window, disappearing when anyone approached. When the decision was made decades later to tear down the aging inn and build the Hotel Murano, the construction crew expected an easy job. Instead, they encountered a series of unsettling mishaps. Tools went missing, lights flickered in rooms that hadn't yet been wired for power, and several workers refused to stay late after one of them claimed to hear a piano playing somewhere in the unfinished structure. The melody was faint, distant, and carried with it a sorrow that chilled the air. After the Hotel Murano finally opened, its beauty and sophistication drew praise from guests and critics alike. Each floor featured stunning glass art, and the atmosphere exuded tranquility and luxury. But soon, reports began to emerge quietly, at first of experiences that no amount of design or decoration could explain. Guests started to notice cold spots that appeared suddenly, even in warm rooms. Some felt a chill pass through them, as though someone had walked by, though the air was still. Others heard whispers just at the edge of hearing a woman's voice murmuring softly, or the faint echo of laughter from an empty corridor. The most frequent stories came from guests staying on the upper floors, where the Tacoma Grand Inn's original foundation still lies beneath layers of concrete and steel. One visitor described being awakened by the sound of piano music, soft and elegant, coming from somewhere near the elevator lobby. When she stepped outside her room, the sound stopped instantly. Another guest reported returning late one night to find his room uncomfortably cold. He turned up the thermostat, but the temperature dropped further. In the mirror, he swore he saw the reflection of a man standing by the window, his face pale, his eyes hollow. When he turned around, no one was there. Employees, too, have their own stories. A housekeeper once entered an empty suite to find all the pillows arranged neatly on the floor in a circle. Another recalled hearing footsteps following her down the hall while she was restocking linens. She turned several times, expecting to see a coworker, but each time the hallway was empty. Perhaps the most unnerving account came from a night auditor who was closing out paperwork around 3 a.m. He heard musica, piano playing, a soft waltz echoing faintly from the second floor. Knowing there were no instruments in the hotel, he went to investigate. As he reached the landing, the sound stopped. The hallway was dim, the air colder than before. As he turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of someone standing at the far end of the corridor, shadowy figure, facing the window, motionless. When he called out, the figure simply vanished. The hotel's management acknowledges none of these stories publicly, preferring to emphasize its reputation for comfort and art. Yet behind closed doors, employees admit that they've all experienced something strange at least once. They talk about lights that turn on and off by themselves, elevators that stop on unoccupied floors, and phones that ring with no one on the line. Some have even seen what they describe as faint outlines, shapes that appear for just a moment in the reflection of a window or a polished glass sculpture before fading away. Psychics and paranormal investigators who have visited the site suggest that the energy of the old Tacoma Grand Inn never truly dissipated. They claim that the spirits tied to the land, particularly those who perished in the fire or met tragic ends, remain anchored, drawn to the motion and life of the new hotel. The piano music, they say, is a residual echo of the past, a memory replaying itself in endless repetition. One investigator noted that the cold spots often occur in areas that are lying directly above what would have been the old Inn-S ballroom. Some guests find comfort in the thought that the hotel is haunted by echoes rather than anger, that these are simply imprints of lives once lived, continuing their rhythm alongside the modern world. Others find the idea deeply unsettling. There are those who check out early after experiencing the unshakable sensation of being watched or waking. To see the faint shape of a person standing silently by the window. Today, the Hotel Murano remains one of Tacoma's most celebrated landmarks, a symbol of renewal and creativity. Yet even as guests admire its shimmering art and panoramic views, some can't shake the feeling that something older and unseen lingers beneath the surface. Late at night, when the hallways are quiet and the city below is still, a faint melody sometimes drifts through the corridors, the delicate sound of piano keys echoing from somewhere no one can quite locate. Whether it is a ghostly musician from the past or simply the building's way of remembering what once stood there, no one can say for certain. But those who have heard it agree on one thing: the music is real, and it carries the unmistakable sadness of a song that never ends. The Davenport Hotel in Spokane, Washington, stands as one of the Pacific Northwest's most elegant and historic landmarks. Built in 1914, the hotel was once considered the most luxurious in the region, hosting celebrities, politicians, and travelers from around the world. Its grand ballrooms, marble staircases, and ornate chandeliers spoke of sophistication and opulence. Yet beneath its beauty lies a darker legend, one whispered about by guests and staff alike. The belief that some spirits checked into the Davenport long ago and never checked out. Those who've stayed there often describe an uneasy stillness that settles over the corridors after midnight, as though the building itself remembers the tragedies it has witnessed. One of the most enduring stories involves a woman known only as the Lady in White. Hotel staff first reported her apparition in the 1920s, describing her as an elegant guest dressed in a flowing white gown, her expression sad but serene. According to lore, she was a young bride who had come to Spokane for her honeymoon, only to die tragically after falling or perhaps jumping from one of the upper balconies. Her presence has been felt ever since. Guests occupying rooms near the original suite where she stayed have reported waking in the middle of the night to the faint rustle of silk, followed by a sudden drop in temperature. Some claim to have seen her reflection in mirrors, a pale figure standing just behind them, only for her to vanish when they turn around. Others have reported the faint scent of lavender perfume lingering in the air long after the room has been cleaned and emptied. The Davenport's Grand Ballroom, once the site of countless lavish events, is another hotspot of unexplained activity. Security guards making rounds late at night have heard the unmistakable sounds of music drifting through the air, soft piano notes, and the echo of distant laughter, even when the ballroom is locked and silent. Some have followed the sounds, only to find the room empty, the chandelier swaying slightly as if disturbed by unseen movement. One former night manager shared his experience in a local interview years later. While checking the lights on the mezzanine, he heard footsteps approaching from behind. When he turned, expecting a guest, no one was there. Yet the sound continued, echoing through the hall, deliberate, heavy steps that seemed to pace up and down the corridor. The man described feeling a sudden chill, followed by the faint whisper of a woman's voice calling his name. Though he swore he had never told anyone in the hotel what his name was, the elevators, too, have been known to behave strangely. On more than one occasion, guests have reported the doors opening on floors that no one requested. Some have entered, only for the elevator to stop unexpectedly between floors before resuming its course without explanation. A few particularly eerie accounts describe seeing a shadowy figure, reflected in the polished metal doors, standing motionless in the back corner of the car, only for it to disappear when the lights flicker. Room 1129 has its own share of unsettling reports. Guests in that room have described being awakened by the sound of someone knocking softly at the door in the early hours, only to find the hallway empty. Others have felt a sudden pressure on the bed beside them, as if someone invisible had sat down. One woman claimed she woke to find her suitcase moved across the room and the curtains drawn open, though she had closed them tightly before sleeping. Hotel staff, while discreet about the paranormal, admit that they've encountered things they can't explain. Housekeepers have reported returning to freshly cleaned rooms, only to find furniture rearranged or items misplaced within minutes. One cleaner claimed that while she was vacuuming a hallway, the power cord was suddenly yanked from the outlet, hard enough to pull the machine across the floor. When she looked around, the hallway was empty. The kitchen staff have also told their own stories. Late at night, when the restaurant is closed, they've heard the faint clinking of glasses and the sound of silverware being set on tables, as though an invisible hand were preparing for dinner service. A few have even seen shadowy figures moving across the dining room in the dim light, figures dressed in formal attire from another era. Despite the eerie tales, many visitors describe the haunting at the Davenport as more melancholy than malevolent. The spirits seem to linger, not out of anger, but out of attachment, as though the beauty of the hotel has become a kind of eternal refuge. The lady in white, especially, is said to appear most often near the ballroom staircase, gazing downward as though waiting for a partner who never came. Some paranormal investigators have conducted studies within the hotel, using electromagnetic sensors and audio recorders. They claim to have captured unexplained voices, faint music, and fluctuations in temperature near the upper floors. A few believe that the energy of the place, with its long history of emotion, celebration, and tragedy, acts as a magnet for residual hauntings. Yet even skeptics admit that there's something different about the Davenport after dark. The air feels heavier, the silence more profound. When the last guest retires and the lights dim in the lobby, the building seems to exhale, alive in its own way. Those who wander its hallways in the quiet hours often find themselves glancing over their shoulders, certain that someone else is there. Today, the Davenport remains a symbol of Spokane's grandeur, restored to its former glory with exquisite care. Guests still come for its beauty, its history, and its elegance. But some come for another reason, to catch a glimpse of the hotel's spectral residents. Whether it's the lady in white drifting through the ballroom, the echo of footsteps in an empty corridor, or the faint notes of a piano playing somewhere unseen, the ghosts of the Davenport remind every visitor that history never truly fades. The Sorrento Hotel in Seattle stands as one of the city's most beautiful and mysterious landmarks, a place where luxury and legend intertwine. Built in 1909, the hotel's Italian Renaissance-inspired architecture, grand staircase, and dimly lit hallways create an atmosphere that feels both elegant and eerie. Over the decades, guests and staff have whispered stories about strange occurrences, doors opening by themselves, soft laughter drifting from deserted dining rooms, and fleeting shadows gliding across the hallways, as if unseen guests still wander the floors they once loved. The Sorrento's history is steeped in the spirit of Seattle's early 20th century boom. When it first opened, it was the height of sophistication, offering breathtaking views of the Puget Sound and Mt. Rainier. Wealthy travelers, artists, and business magnates stayed within its walls, bringing an energy of glamour and ambition. But as with many old hotels, time has left its mark, and according to many who've stayed there, the spirits of the past have never truly departed. The most famous ghost said to haunt the Sorrento is Alice B. Toklas, the Seattle-born writer and lifelong companion of author Gertrude Stein. Though she spent much of her life in Europe, locals claim that her spirit returned to her hometown, finding a strange kind of peace within the Sorrento's ivy-covered walls. Guests have reported seeing a woman matching Toklas's description, dressed in early 20th century clothing, wandering near room 408. She appears in mirrors, only to fade when approached, or glides silently through the halls as if lost in thought. Several visitors have claimed to sense her presence late at night, accompanied by the faint aroma of burning tobacco and perfume, scents that seemed out of place in the modern setting. Some say she hums softly, others hear faint whispers of French phrases in the dark. No one can say for sure why she haunts the hotel, but theories abound. Some believe she visited before leaving for Europe, and that the memory of her youth binds her spirit here. Others suggest she is drawn by the creativity and emotion that the hotel has always inspired, a place where art, memory, and longing still linger in the air. But Toklas is not the only spirit said to wander the Sorrento's halls. Longtime employees tell of unseen hands rearranging furniture in the historic fireside room, a space known for its flickering lights and phantom footsteps. Late at night, when the room is empty, the faint sound of laughter echoes across the walls, soft, musical, and disembodied, as though a party from another era continues just out of sight. One bartender once claimed that while closing up, every wine glass on the counter began to rattle at once, though no tremor shook the building. Guests have also reported strange experiences in the elevator, which seems to have a mind of its own. It has been known to stop unexpectedly between floors, the lights flickering just before a shadow passes across the reflective doors. A few guests have claimed that when the doors open, they catch a brief glimpse of another time, people in old-fashioned attire standing in the lobby before fading away into thin air. Room attendants often speak of the top floors with quiet caution. One housekeeper described cleaning a room only to find the freshly made bed rumpled moments later, as though someone had lain down. Another claimed that, as she vacuumed the carpet, a whispering voice told her to leave it be. When she turned off the machine, the room fell silent again, save for the creak of the floorboards behind her. The hallways of the Sorrento seemed to hold the strongest energy. Guests walking back to their rooms have described seeing shadows cross the corridor, only to realize they were alone. One man, staying on business, woke up to the sound of footsteps pacing just outside his door. When he peered through the peephole, he saw a figure in an old-fashioned suit standing motionless, staring toward the elevator. When he opened the door seconds later, the hallway was empty. Some of the hotel's staff believe that the spirits are remnants of the Sorrento's early years guests who never checked out or employees still tending to their duties. A former front desk clerk once recalled how, during a power outage, the lights in the lobby chandelier flickered back on by themselves. When the power was restored later, the maintenance team confirmed that the fixture had been disconnected during renovations, yet it had glowed steadily for several minutes that night. In the hotel's dining area, especially after hours, the atmosphere can feel strange and charged. Staff closing the restaurant have heard the faint clatter of silverware and the sound of chairs scraping against the floor. Some have seen reflections of people sitting at tables in the large windows overlooking the courtyard, figures who disappear when turned to face directly. A few guests dining late have even reported feeling a gentle touch on the shoulder, followed by the soft laughter of a woman that fades into silence. Those who believe in the paranormal often describe the Sorrento as a residual haunting, a place where the emotions and moments of the past have imprinted themselves onto the walls. But others think the spirits there are conscious, aware of the living, and perhaps protective of the hotel they once called home. Whatever the truth, the hotel's energy is undeniable. Even skeptics admit there's something otherworldly about the Sorrento at night. The air feels cooler, the shadows deeper, and the silence heavy with memory. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site report unusual readings, sudden temperature drops, electromagnetic spikes, and faint voices captured on recorders. In one instance, a team claimed to have recorded a whisper that said, "We are still here." Another captured faint piano notes echoing from an empty hallway at 3 in the morning, even though no piano was located nearby. Today, the Sorrento Hotel remains one of Seattle's most cherished landmarks, celebrated for its vintage beauty and timeless charm. Guests still come for the elegance, the art, and the view of the city, but many arrive curious about its spectral reputation. Some leave with only memories of fine dining and soft beds, while others depart with stories they can't. T explained the sound of laughter in the empty dining room, the creak of footsteps where no one walked, or the faint image of a woman in white watching silently from the end of the hall. The Crescent Hotel in Bellingham, Washington, rises like a shadow from another time, a relic of the early 1900s that has long been whispered about in local lore, though its architecture is striking brickwork adorned with carved stone, arched windows, and balconies that overlook the quiet streets. It carries an unsettling atmosphere that even first-time visitors notice. Behind its beautiful facade lies a history marked by tragedy, secrecy, and stories of hauntings that have refused to fade. From the beginning, the Crescent seemed touched by misfortune. Built during Bellingham's early boom years, it was meant to symbolize modern luxury for a growing city. But from its opening night, strange events began to plague the hotel. The first general manager, a well-respected businessman, was found dead in his suite only months after the grand opening, the cause listed as a heart attack, though locals whispered of foul play. In the years that followed, other mysterious deaths would occur within the hotel. Eswalls, a maid who fell from the fourth-floor balcony under unexplained circumstances. A traveling salesman who vanished without a trace, and a guest whose body was discovered in the basement long after anyone remembered him checking in. Over time, the Crescent's reputation darkened. Staff turnover was constant, and even those who stayed claimed to hear voices where there should have been silence. Some said the walls themselves seemed alive, faint whispers seeping through the plaster. The creak of footsteps following empty hallways. Guests often reported waking in the middle of the night to a sudden chill or the feeling that someone was standing just beside their bed. One story that continues to circulate among employees involves room 213, often referred to as the cold room. No matter how the thermostat is set, that room always feels icy. Housekeepers have complained that their breath becomes visible when they clean it, and guests often ask to be moved after a single night. Some report waking to find their blankets pulled away, or hearing a voice whispering their name. One guest even claimed that as she reached to turn on the lamp, a pale hand emerged from the darkness and brushed against hers before vanishing completely. The basement, long unused and sealed from the public, is another source of ghostly stories. Old maintenance workers claim it once held a hidden passage that connected to nearby buildings, possibly used during Prohibition for smuggling liquor, or worse. During later renovations, workers found fragments of old bottles, rusted locks, and a room that had been bricked off entirely. No one knows what lies behind it now, but those who've ventured close say they can feel an unnatural cold radiating through the wall, as if something on the other side is still alive. In the main lobby, a grand staircase winds upward toward the upper floors. Visitors have described seeing a shadowy figure descending the stairs late at night. A man in early 20th century clothing with a bowler hat and dark suit. He never speaks, and his steps make no sound. As he reaches the final step, he fades completely from sight. One security guard, while reviewing camera footage, claimed to have seen the figure appear on the screen, pausing briefly before dissolving into static. When the footage was checked again later, the same time segment had been mysteriously erased. The dining room, now used for special events, carries its own strange energy. Late at night, when the hotel is quiet, staff closing up have heard the faint sound of silverware clinking and glasses being set down. One night clerk reported walking in to find a single table set perfectly for dinner, with candles burning, though no one had entered the room for hours. The candles, still warm, were made of a brand the hotel hadn't used in decades. Visitors who stay longer than a night often report vivid, unsettling dreams of standing at the edge of the balcony, looking down, or being watched by unseen eyes in the mirror. A few have even claimed to wake up outside their rooms, unsure how they got there. Locals say the Crescent was cursed from the start. The land beneath it, according to old records, once held a boarding house destroyed by fire, and several lives were lost in the blaze. When construction began on the hotel years later, workers complained of tools disappearing and scaffolds collapsing without reason. A few refused to continue the job after a series of accidents left 2 men injured and 1 dead. Over the decades, ownership changed hands many times, with each new management team promising to modernize and revitalize the building. Yet even after major renovations, guests continued to report strange phenomena: cold drafts in sealed rooms, lights flickering without cause, and the echo of faint laughter drifting through the hallways. Some workers have said that when the building is empty, they still hear old elevator bells ring, even though the lift has long since been replaced. Paranormal investigators who have studied the hotel claim that its energy is unusually strong. Using electromagnetic field detectors and thermal cameras, several teams have captured anomalies they can explain: cold spots that move as if guided by an unseen presence, shadow forms darting past doorways, and disembodied voices recorded saying words like "stay" or "help." One investigator described hearing breathing directly beside him in a dark hallway, though no one was there. Despite its haunted reputation, the Crescent continues to draw guests intrigued by its history. Some come seeking comfort and end up leaving with stories they can't forget. Others, fascinated by the paranormal, book rooms hoping for an encounter, and often they get more than they bargained for. The staff, though polite and professional, rarely speak openly about the hauntings. Yet, their nervous glances and unspoken caution betray that they, too, have seen things they cannot explain. The Crescent Hotel remains a paradox, both beautiful and unsettling, alive and yet haunted by the weight of its own past. By daylight, it's a picture of charm, a piece of Bellingham's history preserved through time. But when the sun goes down and the lights dim in the hallways, something else seems to awaken within its walls. The air grows cold, the silence deepens, and those who listen closely swear they can still hear whispers from the shadows, the restless voices of those who never left forever, bound to the Crescent Hotel's dark and lingering memory. The Elks Lodge Hotel in Tacoma once stood as a proud example of early 20th century architecture, a grand structure built for the city's elite. In its prime, it served as both a social hub and a luxury retreat for travelers, dignitaries, and members of the benevolent and protective Order of Elks. But as time passed and the city changed, the once lively halls grew silent, the building slowly falling into decay. Though the hotel has long since closed its doors, those who have ventured inside door, even walked past its aging facades, aware that the echoes of its former life still linger within. Locals say that the Elks Lodge Hotel never truly emptied, that long after its last guest checked out, invisible patrons continued to roam its corridors. Even during its later years, staff and guests alike reported strange happenings that defied explanation. Footsteps echoed along empty floors late at night. Furniture was found mysteriously rearranged, and faint voices seemed to carry through the air, whispering just out of comprehension. The building's grand ballroom, once filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the music of live orchestras, became one of its most haunted spaces. When the hotel was still operational, night watchmen often reported hearing the faint strains of piano music coming from the ballroom after midnight. Upon investigation, they'd find the room dark and silent, the old piano covered in dust and untouched. Some even claimed to see shadowy figures gliding across the floor, as if caught in an eternal waltz, fading away when the lights flickered on. Perhaps the most famous spirit said to inhabit the Elks Lodge is that of a former manager known as Mr. Harlan, who oversaw the hotel in the 1930s. According to legend, he was a strict but kind man, deeply devoted to maintaining the hotel's reputation for excellence. His dedication, however, may have bound him to the building even after death. Guests and staff have described encountering a tall man in an old-fashioned suit wandering the hallways or standing silently behind the reception desk. His form reportedly appears most often in the early morning hours, checking the lobby as though making his nightly rounds. One janitor in the 1970s claimed to have a chilling encounter while closing up for the night. As he swept the lobby, he felt a sudden rush of cold air and heard the distinct sound of footsteps approaching behind him. When he turned, he saw the faint outline of a man adjusting his tie in the reflection of the front glass doors. Yet no one was there. The janitor resigned the following week, refusing to return to the building after dark. The upper floors were no less active. Former guests told of lights flickering on and off by themselves, doors opening in the middle of the night, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. One visitor who stayed in room 314 claimed she was awakened by the sound of someone knocking softly from inside her closet. When she gathered the courage to open it, she found only her clothes swaying gently as though touched by an unseen hand. Maintenance crews who worked in the building after its closure reported similar disturbances. Tools would vanish only to reappear neatly lined up on tables, as if organized by invisible workers. Furniture that had been stacked in one corner of a room would be found moved to another by morning. Some workers even refused to continue their shifts after claiming they heard voices calling their names or the sound of a woman humming softly down the hall. One of the more unsettling stories involves the grand staircase leading up from the main lobby. Several witnesses have claimed that as they ascended the steps, they felt a sudden heaviness in the air and heard the faint click of heels following close behind them. A few described seeing a glimpse of a woman in a long evening gown reflected briefly in the glass banister only, for her image to vanish as they reached the landing. Though the building has been closed to the public for years, paranormal investigators and local historians have been granted access on rare occasions. During one investigation, a team recorded several unexplained phenomena: sudden drops in temperature, electromagnetic field spikes, and a faint male voice captured on an audio recorder saying the words, "Don't leave me." Another investigator claimed to see a full-bodied apparition in the ballroom, a man in a tuxedo standing at the center of the floor. When approached, the figure dissolved into mist. Even the basement of the Elks Lodge Hotel holds a dark reputation, long used for storage and maintenance. It was said to have once housed the hotel's original boiler system and employee quarters. Workers who've gone down there describe an oppressive feeling, as if being watched by multiple unseen eyes. One man claimed he heard the sound of someone shoveling coal into a furnace, though the old boilers had been dismantled decades earlier. Others have reported whispers echoing off the concrete walls, a soft, rhythmic murmur that stops abruptly when anyone speaks. Over the years, several attempts were made to renovate or repurpose the building. Each project seemed to encounter mysterious setbacks, equipment malfunctions, sudden accidents, or unexplained fires that halted progress. Some developers abandoned their plans entirely, claiming the property carried bad energy. A few local psychics who visited the site described it as a place crowded with memories, filled with spirits unable to move on. Today, the old Elks Lodge Hotel stands mostly quiet, its windows boarded and its hallways empty. Yet passers-by often report seeing movement behind the curtains or lights flickering faintly inside when no power is connected. Residents in nearby apartments sometimes hear the sound of faint laughter or the echo of a piano playing late into the night. On certain foggy evenings, people claim to see figures standing at the windows, silhouettes of men and women dressed in early 20th century attire, staring silently into the street below. Those who've dared to step inside describe the air as heavy, the silence broken only by the creak of floorboards and the occasional whisper carried through the corridors. It's as if the hotel remembers what it once was, the joy, the music, the life that once filled it, and the ghosts of that past refuse to let go. Though time has weathered its walls and dimmed its splendor, the Elks Lodge Hotel remains one of Tacoma's most haunted landmarks. The echoes of its golden years still drift through its decaying halls, the clink of glasses, the rhythm of dance steps, the laughter of long-departed guests. And on quiet nights, when the wind moves through the cracks of the old building, it almost seems to breathe again, alive with the restless energy of a bygone age, where ghosts still check in but never truly leave. Perched on the pier overlooking Puget Sound, the Edgewater Hotel in Seattle is known for its breathtaking views of the water and the city skyline. But behind its polished wood and waterfront charm lies a darker tale, one woven through decades of whispered encounters, restless spirits, and an eerie energy that lingers just beneath the surface of luxury. Built in the early 1960s, the hotel has hosted celebrities, artists, and travelers from all corners of the world. Yet, for many guests, it's not the view they remember most. It's the inexplicable sense that something unseen is sharing their room. Long before the hotel stood proudly on the pier, this stretch of waterfront had its own sinister legacy. In the late 1800s, the shoreline was lined with warehouses and docks that serviced Seattle's booming shipping industry. But it was also the site of countless accidents, drownings, and tragedies. Sailors vanished in the fog, dockworkers slipped into the cold waters below, and ships went down during storms without a trace. The bay became known among old-timers as the Sound of Souls, where the spirits of the lost were said to wander the tides, unable to rest. When the Edgewater was built on wooden pilings, extending over the very waters that had claimed so many lives, locals warned that the restless dead might not take kindly to their new neighbors. Guests who stay at the Edgewater often speak of the same chilling sensations. Some describe sudden drops in temperature, as though an icy presence has entered the room. Others awaken to the sound of creaking floorboards or the faint opening and closing of a door, only to find no one there. Late at night, when the wind howls across the sound and waves lap beneath the structure, the building itself seems to breathe, as though alive with echoes of the past. One guest recalled waking around 3 a.m. to see a figure standing by the window, gazing out toward the water. Thinking it was an intruder, he turned on the lamp, but the moment the light flickered to life, the figure was gone, leaving only a lingering chill and faint scent of sea salt in the air. Housekeepers and staff have long whispered about the hotel's ghostly reputation. One maid, who worked the night shift for years, spoke of a recurring sound of footsteps along the upper hallway near room 300. The steps would start slowly, then stop abruptly, always just before the corner, as if the walker knew she was listening. Once, while cleaning a vacant room, she heard a soft knock at the door, followed by a faint humming of what sounded like an old lullaby. When she opened it, the hallway was empty. She swore she could still hear the tune faintly echoing through the vents, fading into the night. There are stories, too, of guests encountering reflections that do not match their own. Mirrors, especially the older ones that date back to the hotel's earliest years, seem to hold something more than just a person's image. One couple, celebrating their anniversary, claimed they saw a man standing behind them in the mirror as they dressed for dinner, tall, with dripping wet hair and vacant eyes. When they turned around, the room was empty. They checked out the next morning, pale and shaken, refusing to speak of it again. Others have reported seeing faces in the window, glass shadowy figures looking inward from the pier. Even though the hotel stands over open water where no one could possibly be standing, employees who close the bar at night often report strange occurrences. Once the guests are gone, chairs are found moved from their places, as though someone sat down after hours. Glasses clink softly by themselves, and the faint sound of laughter sometimes rises from empty corners of the lounge. On quiet nights, when fog drifts in from the sound and the air grows heavy, a piano can be heard, playing from the event room upstairs. No one has ever found the source of the music, and the piano itself has been locked for years. The Edgewater's location only deepens its mystery. The waters beneath it have a reputation of their own, dark, frigid, and impossibly deep. Divers who have explored beneath the pier say that visibility drops to near zero, and strange shapes seem to drift in the murk just beyond the reach of their lights. Some claim to have felt unseen hands brush their arms or tangle in their equipment. Old maritime lore insists that the souls of those who drowned in the Sound remain tethered to the place of their death, doomed to wander until their stories are remembered. If that's true, then perhaps the hotel, built directly above those restless waters, serves as a kind of beacon, gathering point for spirits searching for warmth, light, or recognition. Over the years, management has taken a neutral stance on the hauntings. While they neither confirm nor deny the stories, many staff members admit there are areas of the hotel they prefer not to enter alone after dark. One security guard once claimed to have seen a woman in a long white dress walking along the hallway that faces the Sound. She glided silently, her head tilted slightly, as though listening to something far away. When he followed her, she turned a corner and vanished completely. When he reached the same spot, the only sound was the wind outside and the soft crash of waves against the pier. Despite, or perhaps because of its eerie history, the Edgewater remains one of Seattle's most beloved landmarks. Visitors are drawn to its beauty, unaware that they are walking through layers of unseen history. For every guest who leaves with photographs of the sunset and fond memories of their stay, there are others who depart with questions, chills, and a lingering sense of unease. Late at night, when the city lights shimmer across the Sound and the tide rises against the pilings, the hotel grows quiet. Shadows move softly across the halls, lights flicker for no reason, and somewhere in the distance, a door creaks open as if welcoming someone unseen. The guests sleep, unaware that the restless souls beneath them are still stirring, watching, waiting, and perhaps still calling out from the depths of Puget Sound. The Oxford Suites in Tacoma, Washington, stands as a modern hotel, with a reputation that belies its contemporary appearance. While the building itself is polished and welcoming, boasting the comforts of a high-end chain hotel, it has long been the focus of local ghost stories. Over the years, guests and staff alike have reported strange, unexplained phenomena, lights flickering on their own, figures glimpsed in hallways, and mysterious knocks and taps at doors when no one is near. The stories suggest that the Oxford Suites may be more than a place to rest. It could be a lingering portal to the past, where spirits refuse to leave. From the moment the hotel opened, whispers circulated about the peculiar energy inside its walls. Employees often reported incidents that seemed to defy reason. One night, a housekeeper claimed she was cleaning the second-floor hallway when the lights began to flicker rapidly, plunging the corridor into darkness before bursting back to life. Moments later, a faint shadow moved across the wall, just beyond the reach of her flashlight. She froze, convinced someone was walking alongside her, but when she turned, the hallway was empty. She recounted the incident to her supervisor, who nodded solemnly, admitting he had seen similar phenomena himself. Guests have shared equally unsettling experiences. Many describe hearing taps and knocks at doors late at night, only to discover that no one is there. One couple staying on the third floor reported waking to persistent knocking at their door at precisely 2:17 a.m. Each time one of them checked, the hallway remained deserted. The knocking continued intermittently until dawn, leaving them unnerved and questioning whether they were truly alone. In other rooms, guests have described hearing faint whispers just outside their doors, barely audible but distinct enough to make them pause and listen, only to find silence. The hallways of the Oxford Suites are a common stage for ghostly sightings. Several guests have claimed to see fleeting figures at the end of corridors or reflected in mirrors, only for the apparition to vanish the moment they attempt to get a closer look. One frequent visitor described seeing a tall man in an old-fashioned suit pacing near the stairwell late at night. His features were obscured by shadow, but the figure's presence was undeniable. As the guest approached, the figure disappeared into the walls, leaving a cold draft and the faint smell of cigar smoke in its wake. Staff have also recounted unusual activity in the hotel's common areas. In the lobby, the front desk attendants have occasionally noticed computer monitors flickering and lights turning on and off without explanation. Housekeeping carts seem to move slightly on their own when left unattended, and chairs in the lounge are sometimes found shifted or rotated as if someone had sat in them. A maintenance worker even reported hearing the faint strains of piano music echoing through the hallways late one evening, though no instrument existed in that section of the building. Room 412 has become one of the most talked about spaces in the hotel. Guests staying there have described sudden cold spots, persistent electrical malfunctions, and the sense of being watched. One woman recounted waking in the middle of the night to find her blankets tugged slightly, as if an invisible hand had brushed against her. She also reported seeing a figure standing silently by the window, gazing out toward the city lights. When she blinked, the figure had vanished, leaving only a lingering chill in the room. Another guest noted that their television turned on by itself and displayed static, despite being unplugged, while a soft tapping sounded from the adjoining wall. Even the elevators are not free from supernatural tales. Guests have described the lift moving between floors without input, doors opening unexpectedly, or sudden jolts, as if stopping between levels. One security officer shared a chilling encounter in which an elevator car opened to reveal a shadowy figure standing silently inside. When the officer attempted to approach, the figure had disappeared entirely, leaving the car empty and eerily still. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Oxford Suites claim to have recorded compelling evidence of otherworldly activity. Using EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and digital audio recorders, several teams captured unexplained temperature drops, anomalous readings, and faint voices on tape. Some recordings contained the sound of tapping or scratching that appeared to follow investigators as they moved through the building. Others documented shadowy shapes appearing in hallway cameras with no living person present. Despite these occurrences, the spirits of the Oxford Suites are rarely described as violent. Most encounters are fleeting, subtle, and occasionally playful, suggesting that the entities are more observers than aggressors. Guests often report a sense of being watched or acknowledged without harm, as though the spirits are simply lingering in the space they once occupied, interacting quietly with the living. The hotel's long-standing history of ghostly activity has become part of its identity. Some visitors are drawn to the Oxford Suites, specifically for the possibility of encountering the unexplained. Paranormal enthusiasts book rooms with the hope of witnessing phenomena firsthand. While casual guests often experience strange sensations without initially realizing the significance, staff members have learned to accept the unusual occurrences as part of the hotel's character, passing down stories and warnings to new employees. Even in the daylight, there's an awareness of the hotel's unusual atmosphere. Many guests remark that hallways feel longer than they appear. Corners seem shadowed even in full light, and the silence of empty floors carries a weight that is difficult to explain. When the sun sets, the Oxford Suites transforms into a place where past and present intertwine, where the hum of city life outside contrasts with the subtle, ghostly energy inside. The Oxford Suites in Tacoma remains a place of comfort and modern hospitality, yet it carries a presence that cannot be ignored. From unexplained lights to apparitions drifting through hallways, from taps at doors to cold drafts in empty rooms, the hotel is alive with the echoes of its unseen residents. Guests leave with memories of the city's charm, but many also depart with stories of moments that cannot be explained. Silent witnesses, shadowy figures, and a lingering awareness that some presences never truly leave. The Fry Hotel in Seattle, now a converted apartment building, carries with it a history as rich and layered as its brick and stone facade. Originally built in the early 1900s, it served for decades as a prominent hotel, welcoming travelers, artists, and business people from across the region. But over time, reports of unusual activity began to surface, giving the Fry a reputation that continues to intrigue residents and visitors alike. Even after its transformation into modern apartments, whispers of ghostly encounters, shadowy figures, and inexplicable phenomena persist, suggesting that the building's past is never far from its present. Longtime locals recount that the Fry was always a place of energy, sometimes creative, sometimes unsettling. Guests in the early decades often spoke of strange occurrences, doors opening and closing without reason, rooms that felt suddenly icy, and a persistent sense of being watched even when no one else was present. Staff members frequently reported hearing footsteps in hallways long after closing time, and some claimed to catch glimpses of figures in period clothing disappearing into the stairwells. Many dismissed these stories as imaginative exaggerations. Yet the patterns continued over decades, leaving a lingering aura of mystery. Residents in the converted apartments have inherited much of that same energy. Tenants often mention the peculiar behavior of doors, some of which lock or unlock on their own. One apartment dweller recalled coming home late one evening to find the door to her unit firmly shut, though she had left it open when she stepped out earlier. As she approached, it slowly clicked open again, as if guided by an unseen hand. Another tenant reported that the closet doors in her unit would occasionally slide open by themselves at odd hours. sometimes accompanied by a faint whisper that seemed to call her name. The stairwells of the Fry are particularly notorious. Residents frequently describe feeling eyes upon them as they ascend or descend, and some have seen shadowy figures moving just beyond the edges of vision. One man recalled walking up the staircase late at night when he noticed a dark shape step onto the landing ahead of him. When he blinked, the figure had vanished, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. Others have described hearing the soft scrape of footsteps behind them, but upon turning, they find the stairwell completely empty. The presence is subtle, never overtly threatening, yet undeniably real to those who experience it. In some of the older apartments, whispers are a common occurrence. They are often faint, almost imperceptible, as if carried through the walls themselves. Some tenants report waking to hear conversations in rooms adjacent to theirs, only to find them vacant. One longtime resident said she could sometimes hear a voice reciting poetry or softly humming a tune from decades past, as though a former guest had returned to relive moments of quiet solitude. Paranormal investigators have suggested that these are residual haunting echoes of emotions and events that imprinted themselves on the building long ago. Even the communal areas of the Fry are said to hold ghostly activity. In the lobby, faint shadows are occasionally seen, moving across the walls or in the corners, disappearing when approached. The historic elevator, though upgraded for modern use, has been known to stall inexplicably between floors, doors opening to reveal nothing but empty shafts. One evening, a visitor reported feeling the elevator move slightly before stopping abruptly, only to find that no buttons had been pressed. While some dismiss these events as mechanical glitches, the consistency and specificity of the experiences suggests something far less ordinary. A few tenants have shared stories of seeing apparitions reminiscent of the Fry's hotel days. One woman described glimpsing a man in a three-piece suit carrying luggage along the corridor, vanishing when she stepped out to confront him. Another resident recounted seeing a lady in a long dress reflected in her bathroom mirror, only for the image to fade when she turned to look directly. These encounters often leave residents with a mixture of curiosity and unease, a reminder that the building's history is never fully silent. The Fry's haunting is also tied to its long history of human emotion, joy, sorrow, and the ordinary stresses of life in a bustling city. Guests in the early 20th century experienced their own dramas, from fleeting romances to business deals that shaped futures. Many who now live in the converted apartments believe that the lingering presence of these past residents has left behind a kind of emotional residue, imprinted into the very bricks and beams of the building. The whispers, shadows, and mysterious door movements may simply be echoes of lives once lived within these walls. Paranormal enthusiasts have visited the Fry over the years, documenting what they describe as compelling evidence of activity. EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and audio recordings have captured unexplained phenomena. Cold spots moving through hallways, shadowy shapes in stairwells, and voices that cannot be attributed to any living source. One investigator claimed to hear a clear voice whisper, "Welcome back," in a hallway otherwise empty, leaving no explanation other than the presence of a lingering spirit. Others captured footage of lights flickering in apartments that were vacant, yet showing no signs of electrical issues. Despite the unusual occurrences, the Fry remains a cherished part of Seattle's architectural and cultural landscape. Its blend of historic charm and modern renovation attracts residents who appreciate the beauty of the building, and even those who experience the unexplained often embrace it as part of the Fry's character. There is an unspoken understanding among tenants: the past is present here, and the spirits that linger are less malevolent and more like silent witnesses to the passage of time. The Fry Hotel, now apartments, is a place where history and the present coexist in subtle, haunting ways. Shadowy figures in stairwells, whispers that drift through the walls, and doors that move without explanation remind residents that some aspects of the past refuse to fade. Guests and tenants alike learn quickly that living in the Fry is an experience intertwined with memory, mystery, and the lingering presence of those who came before. It is a building that listens, remembers, and perhaps quietly observes all who walk its halls, making each step through its corridors a brush with the past that is both beautiful and unsettling. The Marcus Whitman Hotel in Walla Walla, Washington, stands as one of the region's most iconic landmarks, blending historic charm with the elegance of a bygone era. Named after the renowned missionary, the hotel has long been a center for travelers, dignitaries, and locals seeking fine dining and luxurious accommodations. Yet beyond its polished exterior and refined interiors lies a history laced with tragedy and whispers of the supernatural. For decades, guests and staff have reported strange occurrences that defy explanation. From flickering lights and disembodied footsteps to voices echoing through empty hallways. From its opening in the early 20th century, the Marcus Whitman Hotel was a place of grandeur and excitement. Travelers arrived from all over, seeking comfort and hospitality. But alongside the stories of elegant galas and luxurious rooms were tales of unexplained incidents. Guests would sometimes wake to find lights dimming or flickering on their own, shadows moving just beyond the corner of their vision, and the persistent feeling that they were not alone. Even staff members, accustomed to the routines of hospitality, grew uneasy when walking the hallways after dark. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves ghostly footsteps. Guests on the upper floors have recounted hearing the sound of shoes clicking against polished floors late at night. The pace of the footsteps varies, sometimes slow and deliberate, other times hurried and frantic, but no one is ever seen. Housekeepers cleaning the halls often encounter this same eerie rhythm, pausing mid-sweep as the sound passes, only to realize they are completely alone. Some have speculated that these footsteps belong to former guests who never left, wandering the hallways in an endless search for rest. Lights flickering without reason is another common occurrence. In the lobby, chandeliers sometimes sway gently, even when there is no breeze. Hallway sconces dim and brighten unexpectedly, creating shadows that seem to stretch and shift with a life of their own. Guests in their rooms have reported overhead lights shutting off mid-conversation, only to come back on moments later. Some believe these manifestations are attempts by the unseen residents to communicate, to make their presence known without causing harm. Voices are perhaps the most unnerving of all experiences reported at the Marcus Whitman Hotel. Visitors often describe hearing their names whispered from empty corridors or faint conversations in rooms that are otherwise unoccupied. One guest recounted hearing a clear voice call out, "Don't forget me," as she prepared for bed. When she investigated, there was no one there, and the room was undisturbed. Another reported hearing laughter in the lobby long after the hotel had closed, faint and distant, as though echoing from another time. These auditory phenomena leave a lingering sense of unease, a reminder that the hotel may harbor memories and spirits from decades past. Certain areas of the hotel seem particularly active. The old ballroom, once the scene of elegant dances and gala events, is said to hold residual energy from lively gatherings of the past. Visitors to the ballroom after hours have reported seeing faint shadows dancing across the walls, as if participating in a phantom waltz. The hallway adjacent to the ballroom often carries soft sounds of footsteps and whispered conversations. Even when maintenance crews are alone in the building, guests who spend the night nearby sometimes wake to the sensation of a presence standing silently at the foot of their bed, vanishing when observed directly. Room 207 has developed a particularly strong reputation among the hotel's supernatural stories. Guests who stay there frequently report sudden cold spots, flickering lamps, and the faint scent of tobacco or perfume from another era. Some have experienced doors locking and unlocking on their own, or mirrors reflecting shapes that vanish when approached. One guest described waking in the middle of the night to see a figure in period clothing standing by the window, looking out toward the city lights. When she blinked, the figure was gone, leaving only a lingering chill. Staff members are no strangers to the hotel's unexplained activity. Night clerks have reported computers turning on without command, phones ringing with no caller, and elevators stopping at floors without prompting. One security guard recounted seeing a shadow move across the lobby in a manner that defied logic, vanishing when he approached. Housekeepers have also mentioned cleaning carts moving slightly as if nudged by an unseen hand, and chairs shifting position in empty rooms. While these incidents rarely escalate into threatening events, they reinforce the hotel's reputation as a place where the boundary between the living and the departed is thin. Over the years, paranormal investigators have visited the Marcus Whitman Hotel, documenting what they believe to be evidence of ghostly presence. EMF detectors pick up spikes in certain hallways. Thermal cameras reveal fleeting shapes, and audio recorders capture faint, unexplained voices. Some investigators have concluded that the hotel is a haven for residual haunting echoes of events and emotions imprinted on the building over time. Others suggest that spirits of travelers who met untimely deaths linger, bound to the hotel by unfinished business or attachment to their former rooms. Despite the strange occurrences, the Marcus Whitman Hotel continues to operate, balancing modern amenities with historic charm. Many guests are drawn by its elegance, unaware of the spectral history that may accompany their stay. Others are intrigued by the possibility of a paranormal encounter, seeking to experience firsthand the whispers, shadows, and subtle chills that define the hotel's ghostly reputation. Staff members accept the phenomena as part of the building's character, often sharing stories with newcomers while maintaining professional composure. The Marcus Whitman Hotel is more than a lodging place. It is a repository of memories, tragedies, and lingering presences. The flickering lights, ghostly footsteps, and voices from empty hallways serve as reminders that some histories cannot be silenced. Those who pass through its doors, whether for business, leisure, or curiosity, often leave with more than just photographs and souvenirs. They carry with them the subtle, haunting awareness that the past is alive within the walls of the Marcus Whitman, and that the spirits of travelers long gone may still walk its corridors. The Northern Hotel in Spokane, Washington, stands as a grand testament to early 20th century elegance. Built in 1910, it quickly became a symbol of luxury and sophistication, drawing travelers, businessmen, and socialites from across the region. Its polished marble floors, intricate woodwork, and grand chandeliers spoke of an era when hospitality was an art form. Yet behind the grandeur lies a history filled with whispers of the unexplained, reports of ghostly apparitions, and experiences that leave guests questioning what is real. For over a century, the Northern Hotel has carried a reputation as one of Spokane's most haunted locations, with tales that range from subtle chills to full encounters with spirits of the past. From the earliest days, strange occurrences were whispered among staff and visitors. Guests would report lights flickering in hallways and rooms for no apparent reason, mirrors reflecting shapes that vanished when approached, and cold drafts that seemed to follow them from one room to the next. Housekeeping staff often spoke of hearing footsteps echoing in empty corridors or the faint sound of doors closing when no one was present. Many of these reports were initially dismissed as quirks of an old building, but as the years went by, the stories grew too consistent to ignore. One of the most common experiences involves the sensation of being touched by unseen hands. Guests have recounted waking in the middle of the night to feel a hand lightly press against their shoulder or tug at the blankets covering them. These touches are never aggressive, but they are startling enough to wake even the heaviest sleeper. Some visitors describe feeling a gentle hand brush against their hair as they walk through hallways, or a tap on the arm when they are alone in a room. While no one has been harmed, the encounters leave a lasting impression, a reminder that they are not truly alone. Apparitions are another frequent phenomenon. Many witnesses report seeing figures dressed in period clothing, often appearing in hallways or lingering near doors. One guest, staying on the 5th floor, recalled seeing a man in a dark suit pacing back and forth outside his room, carrying an old-fashioned suitcase. When he tried to approach, the figure simply vanished into the wall. Another guest reported seeing a woman in an elegant gown gliding across the grand ballroom, a faint shimmer in the air, as though she were suspended between worlds. The figures often appear briefly, enough to make an impression, and then disappear without a trace. The hotel's lighting also plays a role in its eerie reputation. Guests frequently describe chandeliers swaying gently even when the air is still, sconces dimming and brightening at random intervals, and lamps flickering as if responding to an unseen presence. In some cases, lights have been known to turn on or off entirely without electrical explanation, leaving rooms in sudden darkness or casting shifting shadows across walls. Staff have reported the same phenomena in the service corridors and storage areas, noting that these occurrences are not limited to guest areas, but pervade the entire building. Hallways in particular are known for their unsettling energy. Guests walking alone often report the sensation of being followed, hearing footsteps echoing behind them even when no one is there. Some claim to see shadows moving along the walls just at the edge of vision, disappearing when directly looked at. Housekeepers describe similar experiences, sometimes hearing whispers that seem to come from rooms they are passing, or catching glimpses of figures that vanish when approached. The cumulative effect is a palpable tension, a feeling that the past lingers in the very structure of the hotel. Room 312 has earned a reputation as one of the most active spaces in the Northern Hotel. Guests staying there often experience cold spots that shift across the room, lamps flickering unpredictably, and the occasional feeling of an unseen presence brushing against them. Some have heard soft voices murmuring their names, or the gentle rustle of clothing and footsteps moving about when the room should be empty. Paranormal investigators who have visited the room report EMF spikes and unexplained temperature drops, supporting claims that something unusual resides there. The Grand Ballroom, once a site of elegant dances and social gatherings, also seems to retain echoes of its past. Visitors after hours have reported seeing shadowy dancers moving across the polished floors, faint music drifting through the air, and occasional flashes of figures in formal attire standing near the walls. Staff cleaning or preparing the space have sometimes felt sudden cold drafts or sensed a presence watching silently from the corners. Though the ballroom is otherwise empty, these experiences suggest that the energy of past celebrations may remain, replaying like an imprint of history. Even the hotel staff, long accustomed to its quirks, acknowledge the paranormal activity. Night clerks, security personnel, and housekeepers frequently encounter the unexplained in ways that go beyond ordinary perception. Computers turning on by themselves, doors opening or closing without cause, and objects moving slightly have all been reported. Employees have learned to accept these occurrences as part of the Northern Hotel's character, passing stories down to new staff members and sharing warnings about the more active areas of the building. Paranormal investigators have documented some of the most compelling evidence of haunting at the Northern Hotel. Thermal cameras have captured fleeting images of figures in hallways, EMF meters spike in empty rooms, and audio recordings have picked up faint voices and footsteps with no physical source. Some investigators believe these manifestations are residual, haunting energies left behind by those who frequented the hotel in its early days. Others suggest that spirits of former guests or employees remain tethered to the building, unable to fully move on. Despite its ghostly reputation, the Northern Hotel continues to operate as a destination for travelers, blending historic charm with modern amenities. Guests are drawn by the grandeur of the building, yet many leave with experiences that go beyond architectural appreciation. Flickering lights, unexplained touches, shadowy figures, and the sensation of being watched are reported again and again, reinforcing the hotel's status as a place where the past and present intersect in mysterious ways. The Northern Hotel remains a living monument to Spokane's history, its walls filled with echoes of the lives once lived within them. Guests and staff alike walk through spaces where time feels fluid, where figures in period clothing may appear in hallways, footsteps resound from empty rooms, and lights behave as if guided by unseen hands. For those who enter, the hotel offers more than comfort and luxury. It provides a glimpse into the enduring presence of the past, a haunting reminder that some spirits never truly leave. The Governor Hotel in Olympia, Washington, is a historic landmark that has welcomed travelers, dignitaries, and locals for decades. Its elegant architecture and stately presence make it a prominent feature of the city. But behind its polished facade lies a history that many say is steeped in the paranormal. Over the years, guests and staff have reported a variety of strange occurrences, from doors opening and closing on their own to cold drafts sweeping through empty hallways and fleeting shadows that seem to watch from darkened corners. These experiences have earned the hotel a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in Olympia, drawing curious visitors and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Even in its early days, the Governor Hotel carried an air of mystery. Employees and visitors frequently spoke of unexplained events that seemed to follow a pattern. Guests would sometimes awaken in the middle of the night to find their doors ajar, or hear the soft creak of floorboards when no one else was around. Staff members on late-night shifts reported cold spots in hallways that appeared suddenly, lingering long enough to chill the skin despite warm temperatures elsewhere. These subtle yet persistent phenomena created a sense that the hotel's walls were alive with echoes of the past, a place where the boundary between the living and the departed was thin. Doors behaving unpredictably is one of the most common experiences. Reported at the Governor Hotel, guests often describe doors slowly swinging open on their own, even when securely locked, or closing silently without a breeze. One visitor recounted entering her room after dinner to find the door slightly ajar, though she had locked it earlier. As she approached, the door swung fully open and then closed again, as if an invisible hand had guided it. In other cases, guests have reported doors locking by themselves, leaving them momentarily trapped inside their rooms until the mechanism inexplicably released. Housekeepers and staff have witnessed similar occurrences in service corridors, storage areas, and even the lobby, reinforcing the sense that the hotel is home to unseen residents. Cold drafts moving through empty hallways are another hallmark of the Governor Hotel's paranormal activity. Guests often feel a sudden chill as they walk down a corridor, even in summer months when the rest of the building is comfortably warm. These cold spots can appear and disappear without warning, sometimes following a guest from room to room or lingering near corners where shadows fall. Staff members on the night shift have described walking past a doorway only to be met with an icy gust that seems to come from nowhere, accompanied by a sensation of being observed. These inexplicable temperature changes are often the first sign that something beyond the ordinary is present. Shadowy figures are frequently reported in the hotel's more secluded areas. Guests have described seeing vague silhouettes at the edges of their visions, sometimes standing at the end of a hallway, sometimes watching from the corner of a room. One woman staying in a top-floor room recalled seeing a dark figure peering from behind a partially drawn curtain. When she blinked, it was gone, leaving only the sense that she had been observed. Another visitor claimed to see a man in early 20th century attire walking slowly down the lobby, only to vanish into the floorboards as she followed. These apparitions often appear briefly, enough to catch attention, but they vanish before any direct investigation can be made. The hotel's public spaces are also sites of unusual activity. In the lobby, lights occasionally flicker, chandeliers sway gently even when there is no breeze, and chairs or furniture are sometimes found in different positions than when left. Staff have reported hearing whispers in empty lounges or hearing the sound of footsteps on staircases when no one is present. Even the elevators are not immune. Visitors sometimes feel a sudden jolt as the lift begins to move, only to find no button has been pressed. These small but consistent anomalies contribute to the hotel's reputation as a place where the past lingers in tangible ways. Guest rooms, particularly those on the upper floors, seem to be especially active. Tenants and visitors have recounted feeling the light brush of unseen hands, hearing soft knocks at doors, or sensing a presence standing silently nearby. In one room, a couple reported waking to find their blankets shifted as if someone had brushed against them during the night. The sensation was fleeting but unmistakable, leaving them both startled and intrigued. Other guests have described hearing faint conversations or murmurs when the room should have been completely quiet, as though former employees or patrons were replaying fragments of their lives. Staff members who have worked at the Governor Hotel for years often speak of the paranormal with a mix of respect and quiet acceptance. Night clerks, housekeepers, and maintenance personnel have all reported experiences that defy logical explanation, from objects moving slightly on their own to sudden electrical anomalies. Many describe learning to work around these occurrences, treating them as part of the hotel's character rather than something to be feared. Longtime employees share stories with newcomers, passing along both warnings and anecdotes of moments when the veil between past and present seemed to lift. Paranormal investigators have also taken an interest in the Governor Hotel, using thermal cameras, EMF detectors, and audio recording devices. They have documented what they believe to be evidence of supernatural activity. Cold spots, unexplained movements, and faint, disembodied voices have been captured during these investigations. Some suggest that the hotel's former employees and guests remain tethered to the building, their energy imprinted on the structure and occasionally revealing itself to those sensitive enough to notice. Others view it as a series of residual hauntings, echoes of the countless lives and stories that have passed through its halls. Despite its long history of unexplained phenomena, the Governor Hotel remains a celebrated landmark in Olympia. Guests continue to be drawn to its historic charm, luxurious accommodations, and convenient location, often unaware of the spirits that may be nearby. Those who do experience the paranormal frequently recount stories of flickering lights, cold drafts, and shadowy figures, adding to the building's reputation as a place where the past quietly endures. The Governor Hotel is more than a place to stay. It is a living repository of history, a space where the echoes of former employees and guests continue to whisper through corridors, watch silently from corners, and interact in subtle ways with the present. Visitors and staff alike leave with more than memories of comfort and elegance. They carry an awareness that the hotel's history is still very much alive, manifesting in the strange, the unexplained, and the quietly haunting presence that has defined the Governor Hotel for over a century. The Olympic Hotel in Seattle, Washington, is a building steeped in history, both grand and unsettling. Since its opening in the early 20th century, it has been a center of elegance and activity, hosting travelers, dignitaries, and locals seeking comfort and refinement. Yet beyond the polished lobbies and luxurious rooms, the hotel has earned a reputation for ghostly activity. Reports of shadowy figures roaming corridors, whispers in empty rooms, and lights flickering or turning off without cause have persisted for decades, leaving visitors and staff alike with an uneasy sense that the past refuses to remain silent. Throughout its long history, the Olympic Hotel has witnessed countless events, both ordinary and tragic. Over the years, several deaths occurred within its walls, some due to natural causes, others under more mysterious circumstances. Locals whisper that the energy of those who passed remains, lingering in hallways, stairwells, and guest rooms. Guests have frequently described the sensation of being watched, as though unseen eyes follow their movements through the building. Some report hearing faint whispers, calling their names, or catching fragments of conversations from empty spaces, as if the hotel itself is replaying moments from the past. One of the most common phenomena reported involves ghostly figures appearing in corridors. Many witnesses describe shadowy silhouettes gliding down hallways or pausing at doorways, vanishing when approached. One guest on the third floor recalled seeing a figure dressed in early 20th century attire walking slowly down the corridor. When he followed, the figure disappeared, leaving only the faint echo of footsteps that slowly faded into silence. Another visitor reported glimpsing a woman in a flowing dress standing near the elevators, gazing outward as though waiting for someone who would never arrive. These sightings are often brief but leave a lasting impression, a subtle reminder that the hotel's history is ever present. Rooms in the Olympic Hotel also host unexplained activity. Guests frequently report hearing soft whispers in otherwise silent rooms, sounds that seem to come from no discernible source. Some describe lights flickering on and off without electrical reason, casting shadows that move independently of any physical object. One guest recounted waking in the middle of the night to find the room as chandelier swinging gently, though the air was still and the building quiet. Such experiences are often unsettling yet rarely aggressive, as if the spirits merely wish to make their presence known. The hotel's hallways and common areas are equally active. Staff working late shifts often recount hearing footsteps echoing in empty corridors, the creak of floorboards when no one is present, or doors opening and closing on their own. Housekeeping staff have described carts moving slightly as if nudged by an invisible hand and chairs shifting position in lounges after hours. Even the elevators have been reported to behave unusually, stopping at floors without input or opening doors to reveal empty shafts. These events, while subtle, contribute to the sense that the Olympic Hotel is alive in ways beyond normal human perception. Several rooms and floors have developed reputations as particularly active areas. Guests staying on upper floors have reported sudden drops in temperature, the appearance of shadowy figures at the foot of their beds, or glimpses of shapes reflected in mirrors that vanish when directly observed. Room 415, in particular, is frequently mentioned in guest accounts. Visitors describe cold spots moving through the space, lamps flickering, and the faint sound of a voice murmuring their name. Many tenants who have stayed longer periods report repeated encounters, suggesting that the phenomena may be more pronounced in certain areas of the building. The Olympic Hotel's Grand Ballroom, once the scene of elegant dances and gatherings, is another hotspot for activity. Patrons who visit after hours have reported seeing shadows moving across the polished floors, hearing a soft rustle of gowns or shoes on the floor, and detecting fleeting flashes of light that have no apparent source. Some claim to have heard faint music, distant yet recognizable as melodies from decades past, drifting through the otherwise empty space. These events often evoke a sense of nostalgia mixed with unease, as if the building itself preserves fragments of its past. Paranormal investigators have documented many of these occurrences, using thermal cameras, EMF detectors, and audio recorders to capture evidence of unusual activity. Temperature drops, unexplained shadows, and faint voices are commonly recorded, supporting claims from guests and staff alike. Some investigators suggest that the hotel hosts both residual hauntings, CCOs of past events, and intelligent spirits, entities aware of the living and capable of interacting in subtle ways. The combination of tragedy, history, and human energy over more than a century seems to have left a tangible imprint on the building, detectable by those sensitive to its presence. Despite its reputation, the Olympic Hotel continues to operate as a respected establishment in Seattle. Guests are drawn to its historic charm, prime location, and elegant accommodations. Yet many leave with stories of experiences that defy rational explanation. Some are startled, others intrigued, and many simply curious, sharing tales of flickering lights, whispers, and the sensation of being watched. Staff have come to accept these occurrences as part of the hotel's character, offering both caution and insight to new employees and visitors. The Olympic Hotel is more than a place to stay. It is a living record of history, where the echoes of those who came before continue to leave subtle, haunting impressions. Guests and staff alike experience moments where the ordinary intersects with the unexplained shadowy figures, walking the halls, whispers from empty rooms, and lights that flicker or extinguish without reason. It is a building where the past persists, and where the line between the living and the departed is often imperceptibly thin. For those who pass through its doors, the Olympic Hotel offers more than hospitality. It provides a glimpse into a world where memory, mystery, and the unexplained coexist, quietly observing every visitor who walks its historic halls. The Rainier Hotel in Seattle, Washington, is a landmark that blends historic charm with an air of mystery. Named after the majestic Mount Rainier that looms over the region, the hotel has welcomed travelers, business people, and tourists for decades. Its elegant architecture, polished floors, and vintage details offer a glimpse into early 20th century sophistication. Yet beyond the hotel's refined exterior lies a history marked by unexplained phenomena and ghostly encounters that have captivated guests and staff alike. Reports of phantom footsteps, shadowy figures on stairwells, and lights flickering in empty rooms have persisted for years, making the Rainier Hotel one of Seattle's most intriguing haunted locations. From its earliest days, the Rainier Hotel developed a reputation for unusual activity. Staff and guests alike reported hearing footsteps in hallways late at night, even when the building was nearly empty. Some described the sound of shoes echoing across polished floors, pacing back and forth, pausing, then fading into silence. Guests often awoke in the middle of the night to similar sounds outside their rooms, a rhythm of movement that could not be explained by anyone present. Housekeeping staff, walking corridors after hours, sometimes hear these same footsteps behind them, only to turn and find the hallways completely empty. Another hallmark of the Rainier Hotel's paranormal reputation is the presence of shadowy figures. Stairwells, in particular, are often reported as hotspots for spectral activity. Guests have described seeing dark silhouettes ascending or descending stairs, standing at landings, or leaning against railings, only to vanish when approached. One visitor recounted watching a figure in period clothing glide down the main staircase, only for it to disappear halfway down. Another guest described glimpsing a shadow at the top of the stairwell that seemed to watch silently before fading into the darkness. These sightings are typically fleeting, leaving those who witness them with a lingering sense of unease and curiosity. Even the guest rooms are not free from strange occurrences. Many report lights flickering long after the rooms have been vacated, casting moving shadows along the walls. Some guests have described waking to find lamps or overhead lights dimming and brightening on their own, or ceiling fixtures swaying slightly despite the absence of drafts. Doors occasionally open or close without cause, sometimes leaving a room ajar that had been secured earlier. Others have felt cold spots move across the floor, brushing against them like a fleeting presence. These subtle manifestations reinforce the idea that the hotel's past remains present, quietly interacting with those who occupy its spaces. The Rainier Hotel's common areas also show signs of unexplained activity. The lobby, with its vintage furnishings and high ceilings, is sometimes a sight of flickering chandeliers and sudden cold drafts. Visitors have reported seeing shadows cross the room at the corner of their vision, or hearing soft whispers echoing from empty hallways. Even the elevators occasionally behave mysteriously, stopping at floors without input or opening doors to reveal only empty shafts. Staff working late at night have come to expect these small but unnerving incidents as part of the hotel's character, a reminder that the Rainier Hotel is far more than a simple place to sleep. Certain rooms and floors have gained particular notoriety among guests. Room 312 is often mentioned in accounts of paranormal activity. Visitors staying there describe cold spots, lamps flickering, and the sensation of being watched. Some report hearing faint whispers, as if someone were speaking directly to them, or glimpsing a shadowy figure reflected in a mirror that disappears when faced directly. Another frequently cited area is the upper stairwell landing near the northwest wing, where several guests and staff have reported seeing shadowy forms pause and watch silently before vanishing. Over the decades, the Rainier Hotel has seen countless guests pass through its doors, along with a number of tragic events and unexplained deaths. Local lore suggests that some of these spirits never left, lingering as echoes of their former lives. Paranormal investigators have visited the hotel to document the occurrences, using thermal imaging, EMF detectors, and audio recorders to capture evidence of unexplained presence. Reports include sudden temperature drops, flickering lights, and faint, disembodied voices. Many investigators suggest that both residual hauntings, echoes of past events, and intelligent spirits may inhabit the building, interacting subtly with those who remain. Staff members who have worked at the Rainier Hotel for years often speak of the paranormal with a mix of respect and acceptance. Night clerks, housekeepers, and maintenance personnel routinely encounter subtle disturbances, a door closing gently behind them, a light flickering without electrical cause, or the sensation of being watched as they pass down a hallway. Many have learned to treat these experiences as part of the hotel's character rather than something to fear, sharing stories with newcomers while remaining professional. These first-hand accounts contribute to the building's reputation. reinforcing the idea that the Rainier Hotel is not only historic but alive in ways that extend beyond the ordinary. The Rainier Hotel also attracts guests curious about its haunted reputation. Many visitors come hoping to experience the unexplained firsthand, whether through ghost tours or late-night walks through its corridors. Some report witnessing phenomena during their stays, from flickering lights and cold drafts to footsteps and shadowy figures. Others leave with nothing unusual observed, but carry a sense of the building's storied past, feeling the weight of its history in subtle ways. Despite the paranormal activity, the Rainier Hotel continues to operate as a premier destination in Seattle, blending historical charm with modern amenities. Its combination of elegance, mystery, and history draws guests from around the world, many of whom leave with experiences they cannot explain. From phantom footsteps echoing in the corridors to shadowy figures on the stairwells and lights flickering in vacant rooms, the Rainier Hotel remains a place where the past and present intersect. For visitors, it is more than a hotel. It is a living reminder that history, memory, and perhaps restless spirits continue to linger quietly, observing all who walk its halls. The Heathman Hotel in Portland, Oregon, is a historic establishment that has long captured the imagination of guests, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Located near the Washington border, it not only draws visitors from across Oregon, but also from nearby Southwest Washington, where locals have reported strange occurrences spilling over into their communities. Built in the early 20th century, the Heathman has seen generations of travelers pass through its doors, hosting dignitaries, artists, and everyday guests seeking comfort and elegance. Yet beneath its refined exterior lies a reputation for ghostly activity, with reports of apparitions, doors moving without explanation, and whispers echoing through dimly lit corridors. Even in the hotel's earliest years, strange phenomena were whispered about among staff and patrons. Guests would often speak of hearing footsteps echoing through the hallways long after midnight, only to discover the corridors empty when investigated. Housekeeping staff on late-night shifts described seeing shadowy figures vanish as they approached, and hearing the faint rustle of clothing or soft murmurs that had no apparent source. Some of the most common reports involved doors opening or closing seemingly on their own, sometimes leaving rooms unsecured or gently swinging despite being locked. These unexplained events quickly became part of the hotel's lore, a subtle but persistent reminder that the Heathman was more than just an elegant place to stay. The phenomenon of ghostly apparitions is particularly well documented at the Heathman Hotel. Guests often recount seeing figures in period clothing wandering the hallways, pausing near elevators or staircases, and disappearing when observed directly. One visitor on the 4th floor recalled catching sight of a woman in a flowing gown standing near a window, staring silently toward the city skyline. As he moved closer, the figure vanished without a trace, leaving only the faint impression of presence and the lingering sense of being watched. Other guests have described seeing men in early 20th century suits crossing lobbies or gliding along hallways, appearing so briefly that one doubts the reality of the encounter, yet the memory remains vividly etched in their minds. Doors behaving unpredictably is another hallmark of the hotel's haunting. Guests report entering rooms to find doors ajar that were securely locked, or doors closing suddenly when no one is present. Some have described the eerie feeling of doors nudging them as they pass, a subtle touch that startles without causing harm. Housekeepers have witnessed carts moving slightly as if guided by unseen hands, and lounge chairs or decorative furniture shifting position after the hotel has emptied for the night. Even the elevators sometimes behave in ways that defy explanation, stopping at floors without being called or opening to reveal empty shafts, reinforcing the sense that the building is alive in ways beyond ordinary perception. Whispers in dark corridors are a common experience for those walking the hotel's upper floors late at night. Guests have reported hearing faint voices, fragments of conversations, or even their own names called softly from rooms or hallways where no one else is present. Some describe the whispers as urgent yet unintelligible, creating an unsettling mix of curiosity and fear. Staff members have experienced similar phenomena, noting that the sound seems to shift with their movements, as if the voices are aware of their presence. These auditory encounters, combined with shadowy figures and moving doors, create a comprehensive sense of haunting that spans the entire hotel. Certain areas of the Heathman are particularly active. The fourth floor and its adjoining corridors frequently feature reports of apparitions and cold spots. Guests staying there often describe feeling watched, hearing footsteps outside their doors, or sensing a presence standing silently nearby. The lobby and grand staircase are also sites of frequent encounters, where visitors have seen shadows moving across polished floors or glimpsed fleeting figures near doorways and railings. Even the hotel's service corridors and storage areas seem to hold residual energy, with staff occasionally witnessing objects shifting, doors opening, or unexplained drafts. The history of the Heathman Hotel may help explain these occurrences. Over the decades, it has hosted countless travelers, witnessed personal tragedies, and been the site of sudden or unexplained deaths. Locals from Southwest Washington, familiar with the hotel's proximity, often report sensing its energy spilling across the border, claiming that ghostly activity sometimes manifests in neighboring areas. Paranormal investigators have visited the hotel to document unusual events, using thermal cameras, EMF meters, and audio recorders to capture what many consider evidence of spectral presence. Sudden temperature drops, flickering lights, and disembodied voices are common findings, supporting the belief that the hotel is a hotspot for both residual hauntings and lingering spirits. Staff members have grown accustomed to the hotel's unusual character. Night clerks, maintenance workers, and housekeeping personnel frequently report experiences ranging from subtle nudges to full sightings of shadowy figures. Many treat these encounters with professional respect, recognizing them as part of the hotel's identity rather than a threat. Stories are passed down to new employees, creating a shared awareness of the hotel's spectral residents and a quiet acceptance of its unique energy. Despite the ghostly reputation, the Heathman Hotel continues to operate as a premier destination for travelers seeking historical charm and luxury. Guests are drawn by its elegance, fine dining, and central location. Yet many leave with memories of experiences that defy conventional explanation. Flickering lights, cold drafts, phantom footsteps, shadowy figures, and whispered voices create an atmosphere where the past remains present, a subtle and ever-present reminder that history is never truly gone. The Heathman Hotel is more than a place to rest. It is a living repository of stories, memories, and lingering presences. Visitors from Portland, Southwest Washington, and beyond walk its halls and enter its rooms with a mixture of curiosity and awe, encountering subtle and sometimes startling evidence that the past endures. For those who spend a night within its walls, the hotel offers not just comfort and hospitality, but a glimpse into a world where history, memory, and the unexplained continue to coexist, quietly observing all who pass through its doors. The Winchester Hotel in Seattle, Washington, is a building shrouded in mystery and a long history of unexplained phenomena. Known for its elegant architecture and central location, the hotel has drawn countless visitors over the decades, from travelers seeking comfort to locals intrigued by its reputation. However, behind the charm lies a darker side. Numerous reports of disappearances, strange sounds, and unsettling encounters that have left guests and staff alike questioning the reality of their experiences. Tales of shadowy figures and mirrors, distant screams echoing through empty corridors, and furniture rearranged without human intervention have made the Winchester Hotel a focal point for paranormal curiosity in Seattle. From the earliest days of the hotel's operation, reports of odd occurrences began to surface. Guests often described feeling watched in their rooms, experiencing sudden chills, and hearing faint whispers in otherwise silent hallways. Housekeeping staff frequently recounted hearing footsteps echoing across empty floors and noticing objects slightly shifted from their original positions. These subtle yet persistent anomalies created an air of unease. establishing the Winchester Hotel as a place where ordinary hospitality intersected with the unexplained. Over the years, these reports became more detailed and consistent, suggesting that something beyond human perception lingers within the building. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves shadowy figures appearing in mirrors. Guests have recounted moments when they look into a mirror and catch a glimpse of a dark silhouette standing behind them, only to turn and find no one present. In some cases, these figures appear to move independently of the reflection, retreating into corners or disappearing entirely when approached. A guest staying on the second floor described seeing a man in old-fashioned attire reflected in the mirror across the hallway. He blinked, and the figure was gone, leaving only the sense that he had been observed. These reflections often evoke fear and curiosity, leaving an indelible impression on those who witness them. Distant screams are another frequent phenomenon reported by visitors. Guests often hear chilling cries echoing through the hotel late at night, sometimes accompanied by the sound of doors slamming or floorboards creaking. These screams are rarely identifiable, seeming to come from no specific room or area. Some witnesses describe them as muffled and sorrowful, others as sharp and urgent, but all are enough to provoke an immediate sense of unease. Staff members working late shifts have reported hearing these screams when no guests are present, further reinforcing the idea that the hotel's walls hold the echoes of past events. Rooms within the Winchester Hotel are particularly prone to unexplained activity. Guests have reported waking to find furniture rearranged, often subtly chairs turned, tables shifted, or beds slightly displaced, despite being locked or unoccupied during the night. Others describe cold spots moving through their rooms, lights flickering without electrical cause, or the sensation of being brushed by unseen hands. These disturbances are often brief but leave a strong impression, leading some visitors to spend sleepless nights trying to rationalize what they experienced. Paranormal investigators have noted that these patterns are consistent across multiple rooms, suggesting a lingering presence rather than isolated incidents. Hallways and stairwells are also commonly associated with paranormal activity. Guests report hearing footsteps pacing along corridors, sometimes matching the rhythm of someone walking, only to find the areas completely empty when investigated. Shadows are often seen moving along the edges of vision, retreating when observed directly. Housekeepers have described similar experiences, such as hearing the soft murmur of voices or glimpsing figures leaning against walls before vanishing. Even the hotel's elevator occasionally exhibits unexplained behavior, stopping at floors without input or opening to reveal empty shafts. Certain floors and rooms have developed particular notoriety among long-term guests and staff. The third floor is frequently mentioned in accounts of intense activity. Visitors staying there report repeated instances of cold spots, sudden electrical flickers, and fleeting images in mirrors or windows. A long-term guest once described waking to find the bedspread lightly pulled back, as if someone had been sitting on the edge, yet no one was present. Similar reports come from the fifth floor, where echoes of voices, footsteps, and unseen movements are regularly experienced. These patterns suggest that specific areas of the hotel may act as focal points for the residual energy of past events. The Winchester Hotel's history of unexplained disappearances has added to its eerie reputation. Over the decades, several guests have vanished under mysterious circumstances, often leaving no trace. While some of these disappearances were eventually explained, others remain unresolved, contributing to the legend that the hotel itself holds secrets. Paranormal investigators and researchers have speculated that the spirits of those who never left may still inhabit the building, manifesting in subtle or dramatic ways to make their presence known. Staff members have long acknowledged the hotel's unusual character. Night clerks, housekeeping, and maintenance personnel frequently encounter objects moving, doors opening or closing on their own, and fleeting shadows in corridors. Many have learned to accept these phenomena as part of working at the Winchester Hotel, sharing stories with new employees while remaining professional in their duties. These first-hand accounts help maintain the hotel's reputation as a location where the past and present coexist, often in unsettling ways. Despite its haunted reputation, the Winchester Hotel continues to welcome guests seeking its historic charm and central location. Travelers from across the region, some intrigued by its paranormal reports, others unaware, stay within its walls and experience the hotel's unique energy. The combination of shadowy figures, distant screams, moving furniture, and flickering lights creates an atmosphere that is equal parts fascination and unease. The Winchester Hotel stands as a living testament to Seattle's layered history, a place where the echoes of past events and restless spirits continue to interact with the living. Guests and staff alike experience the subtle and sometimes startling presence of entities who have not fully departed. From mirrors that reflect shadowy figures to unexplained screams, shifting furniture, and footsteps in empty corridors, the hotel remains a place where the line between the past and present is often blurred. For those who enter, the Winchester Hotel offers more than lodging. It provides a glimpse into a world where history, mystery, and the unexplained persist, quietly observing all who walk its haunted halls. The Lewis Hotel in Tacoma, Washington, is a building that combines historic charm with an unsettling reputation for paranormal activity. Established in the early 20th century, the hotel has long welcomed travelers, business people, and tourists seeking comfort and hospitality. Its vintage architecture, ornate woodwork, and high ceilings evoke a sense of elegance. Yet beneath this refined exterior lies a darker, mysterious presence. Over the years, guests and staff have reported ghostly figures lingering in hallways, taps on doors when no one is present, and whispers that call out names long forgotten. The Lewis Hotel has earned a reputation as one of Tacoma's most haunted locations, attracting both history enthusiasts and paranormal investigators intrigued by the stories that continue to emerge. From its earliest years, the Lewis Hotel has been a place of unexplained occurrences. Guests frequently speak of feeling watched as they move through corridors or enter their rooms, footsteps echoing along hallways in the dead of night, despite no other guests being present, are a common report. Visitors describe the sensation of cold air brushing against them unexpectedly, sudden chills in rooms that should otherwise be warm, and the eerie feeling that unseen eyes are following their movements. Housekeeping staff on late shifts have often reported hearing the soft murmur of voices or catching glimpses of shadowy figures at the edges of their vision, only to see nothing when they look directly. These subtle but persistent phenomena have become an accepted, if unnerving, part of the Lewis Hotel experience. One of the most frequently reported experiences involves ghostly figures appearing in the hallways. Guests describe seeing silhouettes moving slowly along corridors, sometimes pausing as if observing them, only to vanish when approached. One visitor staying on the second floor recounted watching a man in early 20th century attire stroll past the end of the hallway. When she followed, the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving no trace. Another guest reported glimpsing a woman standing silently near the stairwell, her dress flowing as though caught in a non-existent breeze. These sightings are often fleeting, leaving only a lingering impression of presence, as if the hotel preserves fragments of its past within its walls. Doors tapping or knocking without any visitors is another hallmark of the Lewis Hotel's paranormal activity. Guests frequently describe hearing light, deliberate taps on their room doors when no one is there, sometimes repeated several times in succession. Some have reported the sensation of a door handle moving gently, turning as if someone outside were testing it, only to find no one present. Housekeeping staff have also noticed these mysterious knocks in empty hallways, further reinforcing the sense that the hotel is inhabited by unseen residents. These subtle interactions are often enough to unsettle even the most composed guests. Whispered voices add to the hotel's eerie atmosphere. Many guests have reported hearing their names softly called, sometimes accompanied by fragments of conversation from long ago. These whispers are often heard in empty rooms or corridors, and while they are rarely aggressive, they are unmistakably unnerving. A guest on the third floor once described hearing a soft voice say her name repeatedly as she prepared for bed. When she opened the door to investigate, the hallway was empty, and the sound faded into silence. Staff have reported similar experiences, hearing faint murmurs when the hotel is otherwise quiet, suggesting that these voices are echoes of former patrons who never fully departed. Rooms at the Lewis Hotel are particularly prone to paranormal activity. Guests have reported cold spots drifting across their rooms, objects subtly shifted or out of place, and lights flickering without electrical cause. Some describe feeling the touch of unseen hands, often brushing lightly against their shoulders or arms during the night. These sensations are brief but leave a lasting impression, creating a sense of personal connection to the hotel's spectral residents. Many long-term guests report repeated experiences, reinforcing the idea that certain areas of the building act as focal points for lingering spirits. Hallways and stairwells are also often the sites of unusual occurrences. Guests walking late at night report footsteps echoing behind them, shadows darting across walls, and occasional glimpses of figures standing silently near corners. Even the elevator has its strange moments, stopping at floors without input or opening to reveal empty shafts. Staff members describe these experiences as common yet unsettling, often passing on stories to newcomers to prepare them for the hotel's unique energy. The history of the Lewis Hotel contributes to its reputation. Over the decades, it has hosted countless visitors and been the site of numerous personal tragedies and unexplained events. Local lore suggests that the spirits of past guests remain tethered to the building, replaying fragments of their lives and making their presence known to those who stay long enough to notice. Paranormal investigators have documented cold spots, shifting objects, flickering lights, and audio anomalies, supporting the claim that the Lewis Hotel is a site of significant spectral activity. Staff members who have worked at the hotel for years have developed a quiet acceptance of the unusual events. Night clerks, housekeeping, and maintenance personnel routinely experience doors moving on their own, lights flickering, and the sensation of being watched. Many treat these occurrences as part of the hotel's character rather than threats, sharing their experiences with coworkers and passing on stories that enhance the building's mysterious reputation. Despite its haunted reputation, the Lewis Hotel continues to welcome guests from across the region. Travelers come for its historic charm, central location, and refined accommodations. Yet many leave with stories of encounters that defy explanation. Shadowy figures in hallways, taps on doors with no visitors, whispered names, and the touch of unseen hands create an atmosphere where the past and present intersect, allowing guests to feel a direct, if fleeting, connection to the history of the building. The Lewis Hotel stands as more than just a place to sleep. It is a repository of memories, echoes, and lingering presences. Visitors from Tacoma and nearby communities often walk its hallways with a sense of anticipation, curiosity, and caution, experiencing moments that challenge the boundary between the ordinary and the supernatural. With ghostly figures, unexplained knocks, whispered names, and cold touches, the Lewis Hotel remains a living reminder that history is never truly gone, quietly observing all who enter its haunted halls. The Rainier in Enumclaw, Washington, sits quietly at the edge of the Cascade foothills, surrounded by lush forests and misty mountain landscapes. From the outside, the inn appears serene and welcoming, a perfect retreat for travelers seeking the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. Yet beneath its charming exterior, the Rainier Inn has long held a reputation for paranormal activity, drawing attention from locals and visitors alike. Guests report cold spots that appear without cause, apparitions gliding silently through hallways, and faint whispers calling out to those who wander the inn's dim corridors. For many, the inn is more than just a place to stay. It is a portal to the echoes of travelers who never completed their journeys. The inn's history is rich with stories of movement and transition. Nestled near the base of Mount Rainier, it has long served as a waypoint for travelers, hikers, and families heading into the mountains. Over the decades, countless people have passed through its doors, some leaving behind memories, others leaving behind more lasting impressions. Locals whisper that the spirits of those who never reached their intended destinations remain tied to the inn, wandering its halls as if searching for the paths they could not complete. These lingering presences, subtle yet persistent, had become part of the inn's identity, quietly influencing the experiences of those who stay there. Cold spots are among the most commonly reported phenomena at the Rainier Inn. Guests frequently describe sudden drops in temperature, often concentrated in specific corners of hallways or within certain rooms. A visitor on the second floor recalled standing in her room when a wave of frigid air swept over her, despite the heat being on and the windows securely closed. The cold seemed almost tangible, pressing against her skin and leaving a lingering shiver. Other guests have noted similar occurrences while walking down empty corridors, feeling icy air brush past them as if an unseen presence were moving alongside them. These inexplicable temperature changes are often the first hint that the inn is not entirely ordinary. Apparitions are another common aspect of the Rainier Inn's haunted reputation. Visitors have described seeing figures in period clothing walking through hallways, pausing at doorways, or appearing at the edge of staircases before vanishing. One guest recounted glimpsing a man in a travel coat carrying a small bag, seemingly retracing his steps through the lobby, only to disappear as she approached. Another reported seeing a faint silhouette of a woman standing near a window, gazing out toward the mountains as though waiting for someone who would never arrive. These fleeting appearances are rarely threatening, but they leave a lasting impression, as if the inn preserves fragments of the lives that once passed through it. Whispers add another layer to the inn's eerie atmosphere. Guests often report hearing faint voices calling their names or uttering phrases that are difficult to discern. Sometimes these sounds come from empty hallways, other times from unoccupied rooms. One visitor described waking in the middle of the night to a soft whisper repeating her name, only for the sound to vanish when she opened the door to investigate. Staff members have also experienced similar phenomena, hearing voices in areas where no guests are present. These auditory encounters are subtle but powerful, creating a sense that the inn is alive with memories and the presence of those who never left. Certain rooms and areas within the Rainier Inn are particularly active. The second and third floors, along with hallways leading to the older sections of the building, are frequently mentioned in reports. Guests in these areas have described cold drafts moving across floors, lights flickering without cause, and the sensation of being watched. Even the stairwells have been sites of repeated sightings, with apparitions appearing at landings and vanishing before they can be approached. Staff members report that these phenomena are consistent enough to be recognized as part of the inn's unique character, and they have learned to accept them as a natural component of working there. The inn's proximity to the Cascade foothills has likely contributed to its mystique. Historically, travelers journeying through the mountains faced unpredictable weather, difficult terrain, and sometimes tragedy. Those who perished or never reached their destinations are said to have left an imprint on the inn, their presence detectable by those sensitive to its energy. Paranormal investigators have visited the Rainier Inn, documenting cold spots, audio anomalies, and shadowy figures on video or infrared cameras. Their findings support the reports of guests and staff, suggesting that both residual hauntings and lingering spirits inhabit the building. While the paranormal activity can be unsettling, it has also become a source of fascination for many visitors. Travelers seeking a unique experience often stay at the inn, hoping to witness the unexplained. Some are rewarded with glimpses of figures, whispers, or sudden chills, while others leave with a sense of having been touched by something beyond ordinary perception. Even those who do not directly experience ghostly activity often feel the weight of history within the inn, as if the memories of countless travelers are subtly woven into the fabric of the building. Staff members of the Rainier Inn have developed a quiet familiarity with the unusual occurrences. Night clerks, housekeepers, and maintenance personnel often report subtle interactions, doors that close on their own, cold spots, or fleeting shadows at the edges of their vision. Many treat these experiences as part of the inn's character, sharing stories with new employees and guests while maintaining professional duties. Their accounts reinforce the notion that the Rainier Inn is a living space where the past and present coexist in unusual and sometimes haunting ways. Despite its reputation, The Rainier Inn remains a beloved destination for visitors to Enumclaw and the surrounding Cascade foothills. Guests are drawn by its historic charm, scenic surroundings, and comfortable accommodations. Yet many leave with stories of encounters that defy explanation. Cold spots, fleeting apparitions, and whispers calling out across empty hallways create an atmosphere where the ordinary intersects with the mysterious. The Rainier Inn stands as a testament to the enduring presence of history and memory. For travelers passing through Enumclaw, it offers more than lodging. It provides a connection to the spirits of those who never completed their journeys. Shadowy figures in hallways, cold drafts that press against the skin, and faint whispers calling names long forgotten serve as a quiet reminder that the past is never truly gone. At the Rainier Inn, history and the unexplained coexist, inviting every guest to step into a world where the echoes of travelers linger, silently observing all who pass through its doors. The Colonial Hotel in Tacoma, Washington, is a historic landmark that has stood for over a century, offering visitors a glimpse into early 20th century elegance. Its grand architecture, detailed moldings, and vintage charm make it a favorite among travelers seeking both comfort and history. Yet beneath its classic exterior lies a reputation that has intrigued and unsettled guests for decades. The Colonial Hotel is widely considered haunted, with numerous reports of ghostly activity that include doors opening and closing on their own, lights flickering without cause, and shadows moving independently of any natural light. These stories have cemented the hotel as a notable site for paranormal enthusiasts and curious travelers alike, attracting those who seek experiences beyond the ordinary. From the earliest days of the Colonial Hotel, whispers of unexplained phenomena began circulating among guests and staff. People often describe the eerie sensation of being watched, especially while walking through the hallways late at night. Footsteps echoing along corridors are frequently reported, though no one else is present. Guests recount feeling sudden cold drafts sweep across their rooms, or sensing an unseen presence near their beds. Housekeeping staff working night shifts have observed furniture subtly shifting, chairs slightly turned, or objects displaced in rooms that had been locked and empty for hours. These occurrences, subtle yet persistent, have become a defining feature of the hotel's mystique, creating an environment where history and the unexplained converge. One of the most commonly reported manifestations at the Colonial Hotel is doors that open and close without any human interaction. Guests have described waking in the middle of the night to find their bedroom doors swinging gently or slamming shut, even when they had been securely locked. In some cases, hallway doors move as if being pushed by invisible hands, leaving guests startled and uneasy. Housekeeping staff have encountered similar events while checking rooms or walking the corridors after hours. Sometimes, the doors respond only to certain individuals, adding to the sense that the hotel is aware of its occupants. This unexplained movement of doors contributes significantly to the perception that the Colonial Hotel is alive with unseen presences. Lights flickering without electrical cause is another hallmark of the hotel's haunted reputation. Guests often describe lamps dimming and brightening spontaneously, ceiling fixtures pulsating erratically, or lights turning on and off without any discernible pattern. Some report that these occurrences intensify in certain areas, particularly along the older corridors or in rooms with a history of repeated activity. A guest staying on the third floor once recalled sitting in the lobby when overhead chandeliers flickered in a rapid, almost rhythmic pattern, casting elongated shadows across the polished floors. These electrical anomalies often leave witnesses questioning their senses, as the flickering lights seem to respond to more than just mechanical causes, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and heightened awareness. Shadows moving independently of natural light are also frequently reported. Guests describe seeing shapes dart across hallways or corners of rooms, shifting in ways that defy ordinary explanation. One visitor recounted seeing a dark figure move across the wall opposite her room. Yet when she turned on her flashlight, the shadow remained momentarily in motion, as if untethered to any physical source. Another guest reported witnessing a silhouette appear in the stairwell, pause at the landing, and then vanish completely before she could approach. These visual phenomena often occur at the edges of perception, subtle enough to provoke unease, but vivid enough to leave lasting impressions. The Colonial Hotel's history provides context for its paranormal activity. Over the decades, it has hosted countless patrons, staff, and events, many of which have been accompanied by personal tragedy or misfortune. The building's age and storied past suggests that its walls may carry residual energy from those who spent significant portions of their lives there. Local lore holds that former patrons and employees, some of whom passed away within the hotel, continue to linger as spirits, replaying fragments of their lives or observing those who now occupy their former spaces. Paranormal investigators have visited the hotel, documenting cold spots, unexplained noises, and shadowy figures through various technologies, supporting claims of supernatural presence. Certain floors and rooms have garnered particular attention due to heightened activity. The second and third floors, along with older hallways leading to the hotel's original wings, are often cited in reports of doors moving, lights flickering, and shadows appearing. Guests in these areas frequently describe a sensation of being observed, of unseen eyes following their movements as they walk through the corridors. Stairwells and service areas also serve as focal points, with staff occasionally encountering objects shifting or faint murmurs in areas thought to be empty. These concentrated pockets of activity suggest that specific zones of the building act as focal points for the lingering spirits or energies that inhabit the hotel. Staff members of the Colonial Hotel have become familiar with the building's paranormal tendencies. Night clerks, maintenance personnel, and housekeeping employees often experience subtle phenomena during their shifts, such as doors nudging, lights flickering, or shadows passing at the periphery of vision. Many treat these occurrences as part of the hotel's character, sharing stories with new staff while maintaining professional decorum. This awareness helps preserve the hotel's mysterious atmosphere, while also offering reassurance to guests who may encounter something unexplained during their stay. Despite its haunted reputation, the Colonial Hotel continues to welcome visitors seeking a combination of historic charm and contemporary comfort. Guests are drawn to its elegant architecture, rich history, and prime location. Yet many leave with experiences they cannot explain. Doors that move on their own, flickering lights, and shadowy figures create an environment where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. The Colonial Hotel remains a testament to Tacoma's layered history and enduring mysteries. Guests and staff alike encounter subtle and sometimes startling phenomena, from doors opening and closing to shadows moving independently of natural light and lights flickering without cause. For those who walk its hallways, the hotel offers more than lodging. It is a place where the past endures, observing silently, reminding every visitor that history, memory, and the unexplained coexist within its haunted walls. The Hotel Rialto in Tacoma, Washington, is a historic building that has fascinated visitors for over a century. Built in the early 1900s, it stands as a testament to the city's rich architectural and cultural heritage. Its brick facade, detailed moldings, and ornate interior make it a striking landmark, attracting travelers who appreciate both history and charm. Yet beneath its elegant exterior lies a reputation that has captured the imagination of locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The Rialto has long been known for unexplained occurrences, from phantom figures walking its hallways to lights turning on and off without explanation, and whispers echoing through empty rooms. These mysterious phenomena have become an enduring part of the hotel's identity, creating an atmosphere where the past feels remarkably present. Over the years, guests have reported a wide array of paranormal experiences. Many recount walking down the hallways late at night and seeing shadowy figures gliding along the walls or stopping briefly before vanishing into thin air. One visitor staying on the third floor described seeing a man in early 20th century attire pacing near the stairwell. When she turned to approach, he disappeared as if he had never existed, leaving only the echo of his footsteps. Another guest recounted glimpsing a woman in a flowing dress near the lobby, seemingly observing the entrance before fading into the shadows. These fleeting sightings are often enough to unsettle visitors, leaving a lasting impression that the building holds memories of those who once walked its halls. Lights turning on and off without cause are another frequently reported phenomenon at the Guests often describe lamps flickering in their rooms, ceiling fixtures dimming and brightening in rapid succession, or overhead lights switching off entirely in hallways when no one is present. Some have experienced lights reacting to their movements, flickering as they approach or fade when they step away. A long-term guest once recalled sitting in the lobby when the chandeliers above pulsated erratically, casting long, shifting shadows across the polished floors. Such electrical anomalies creates an atmosphere of unpredictability, heightening the sense that the building itself is alive in ways beyond ordinary understanding. Whispering voices add another layer to the hotel's eerie reputation. Guests frequently report hearing faint murmurs, sometimes calling their names or repeating fragmented phrases that are difficult to discern. These sounds often emanate from empty rooms or hallways, creating an unsettling feeling of being observed. One visitor described waking in the middle of the night to hear a whisper softly say, "Don't leave," only to find the room completely empty when she turned on the light. Staff members have also reported hearing voices in areas with no guests present, indicating that the phenomenon is not confined to occupied spaces. These auditory encounters enhance the sense of presence within the building, giving guests the impression that the Rialto is a living repository of echoes from the past. The hallways and stairwells of the Rialto are particularly prone to spectral activity. Guests have reported footsteps following them along corridors, shadows flitting across walls, and occasional glimpses of figures lingering near doorways. Some describe a subtle sense of being watched, a presence that seems to move with them as they traverse the hotel. Even the service areas and storage rooms are not immune, with staff occasionally witnessing objects shifting or hearing faint noises when the areas are otherwise empty. These repeated encounters suggest that certain zones of the building may serve as focal points for lingering spirits, or perhaps as channels through which residual energy from the past manifests. The hotel's long history provides context for its spectral activity. Over the decades, the Rialto has hosted countless visitors, events, and employees, some of whom experienced sudden or unexplained deaths. Locals have long claimed that the spirits of former patrons remain tied to the hotel, occasionally manifesting to make their presence known. Paranormal investigators have visited the site, documenting cold spots, fluctuating lights, and shadowy figures, further cementing the Rialto's reputation as one of Tacoma's most haunted buildings. Some investigators suggest that the experiences reported by guests are a combination of residual hauntings, premonitions of past events frozen in time, and intelligent spirits aware of their surroundings. Certain floors and rooms are notorious for heightened activity. Guests on the third and fourth floors often report seeing apparitions, hearing unexplained noises, or feeling sudden drops in temperature. Rooms near stairwells or older sections of the building seem especially active, with visitors describing shadows moving across walls or objects subtly shifted from their original positions. Housekeeping staff have noted similar patterns, with carts occasionally moving as if guided by unseen hands, doors opening or closing without explanation, and fleeting glimpses of figures in hallways. These concentrated pockets of activity suggest that the hotel contains zones where spiritual energy is particularly strong, creating experiences that remain vivid in the memories of those who encounter them. Despite its haunted reputation, the Hotel Rialto continues to operate as a vibrant destination for travelers seeking both history and comfort. Guests are drawn to its architectural charm, convenient location, and storied past. Yet many leave with experiences that defy explanation. The combination of shadowy figures, flickering lights, and whispering voices creates an atmosphere where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist, offering visitors a sense of connection to the lives that unfolded within the hotel over the last century. Staff members of the Rialto have learned to navigate the building's unusual character with a sense of familiarity. Night clerks, housekeeping, and maintenance personnel often witness subtle phenomena, from lights reacting unpredictably to objects shifting or sounds emerging from empty corridors. Many treat these occurrences as part of the hotel's history, sharing their stories with new employees while maintaining professional composure. Their acceptance of the paranormal has helped preserve the hotel's mysterious ambiance, allowing guests to experience the building's haunted nature without fear or disruption. The Hotel Rialto remains a living monument to Tacoma's layered history. Guests who pass through its doors encounter subtle and sometimes startling phenomena, from shadowy figures gliding through hallways to lights flickering and whispers echoing across empty rooms. For visitors, the Rialto offers more than just lodging. It provides a connection to the past, a sense that history, memory, and the unexplained continue to coexist within its walls. Every creak of a floorboard, flicker of a light, and glimpse of a fleeting shadow reminds those who stay that the Hotel Rialto is a place where the past never truly leaves, silently observing all who enter its haunted corridors.
The Bagley Hotel in Seattle, Washington, is a building steeped in history and mystery. Once a thriving hub for travelers, it now stands partially abandoned, a mix of crumbling elegance and quiet menace. Its brick exterior, high ceilings, and ornate architectural details recall a bygone era, yet beneath the surface, the Bagley has developed a reputation that draws the curious and the brave alike. Over the years, guests have reported countless paranormal encounters, from footsteps following them along empty hallways to doors locking themselves without explanation, and apparitions appearing in mirrors or at the foot of beds. For those who enter its shadowed corridors, the Bagley Hotel offers an experience where history, memory, and the unexplained collide, creating a sense of both fascination and unease. The Bagley's reputation for ghostly activity dates back decades, with reports increasing as parts of the building fell into disuse. Visitors often recount the eerie sensation of being watched while walking through deserted hallways, sometimes feeling cold drafts sweep past them as if someone unseen is walking alongside. Footsteps echoing through the halls are a frequent occurrence, sometimes matching the rhythm of the visitor's own steps, and sometimes approaching from behind, only to vanish when investigated. Guests describe the disquieting feeling of invisible eyes tracking their movements, leaving them tense and alert throughout their stay. One of the most unnerving phenomena reported at the Bagley Hotel involves doors locking themselves. Guests have awakened to find their room doors secured despite being unlocked when they went to sleep. In other cases, hallway doors swing open or shut without cause, sometimes repeatedly, creating a sense that the building is alive with unseen forces. Staff who have worked in the hotel's older sections have witnessed similar behavior, noting that some doors respond as if guided by an invisible presence, while others remain perfectly still. These unexplained movements contribute to the hotel's aura of mystery, reinforcing its status as a site of significant paranormal activity. Apparitions are perhaps the most compelling and frightening experiences reported at the Bagley. Guests often describe seeing figures standing silently in corners or at the foot of their beds, only to vanish when approached. One visitor staying on the second floor recounted looking into the mirror and seeing a dark silhouette of a man standing behind her. When she turned to confront him, the reflection showed an empty room, leaving her shaken and questioning her own senses. Another guest described glimpsing a woman in period clothing standing in the hallway, who seemed to drift past walls without disturbing anything, disappearing entirely before anyone could approach. These encounters often leave a lasting impression, a sense that the hotel is imbued with the presence of those who once walked its corridors. The hallways of the Bagley Hotel are particularly active. Guests report shadows flickering across walls or moving in ways that do not align with the sources of light. Footsteps are frequently heard, sometimes accompanied by faint murmurs or whispered voices that seem to call names or phrases from a bygone era. Some guests have described passing by a stairwell and seeing a fleeting figure descending the steps, only to find the stairwell empty upon closer inspection. These incidents are not confined to guest areas. Service quarters and partially abandoned rooms also host strange activity, suggesting that the building itself may act as a conduit for lingering spirits. Certain rooms and floors have become infamous among those familiar with the Bagleys' history. The second and third floors, as well as rooms in the older wing, are often cited in reports of ghostly encounters. Guests in these areas describe cold spots that move across floors, furniture subtly shifting, and the sensation of unseen hands brushing against them during the night. Even rooms that appear untouched for years seem to carry a residual energy, an echo of lives once lived and experiences long past. Paranormal investigators have documented cold drafts, unexplained noises, and shadowy figures on video, reinforcing the notion that these areas are focal points for the hotel's lingering spirits. The Bagleys' partially abandoned state has likely contributed to its haunted reputation. As sections of the building fell into disuse, the quiet spaces became ideal settings for unexplained phenomena. Visitors often report that the emptier areas are the most active, with footsteps echoing, doors moving, and apparitions appearing without warning. The combination of aged architecture, long-standing history, and isolation creates an environment where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect, offering guests a heightened awareness of their surroundings and a profound sense of unease. Staff members who have spent time in the hotel are well aware of its peculiar character. Night clerks, maintenance workers, and cleaning staff frequently experience doors moving independently, lights flickering, or shadowy figures at the edge of vision. Many have learned to accept these occurrences as part of working at the Bagley, passing on stories to new employees while maintaining a sense of professionalism. Their experiences suggest that the hotel's haunted nature is pervasive, affecting both guests and those who inhabit it daily. Despite its reputation, the Bagley Hotel continues to attract visitors, particularly those drawn to historic buildings and paranormal experiences. Travelers seeking a glimpse of the unexplained are often rewarded with eerie encounters, while others are simply captivated by the hotel's haunting atmosphere. The combination of shadowy figures, mysterious footsteps, and doors that lock themselves creates an experience that challenges the line between the natural and the supernatural, leaving guests with stories they will not soon forget. The Bagley Hotel stands as a testament to Seattle's layered history and the power of lingering memories. Guests experience a building where time seems to overlap, where shadows move independently of light, doors respond to invisible forces, and figures from the past appear in mirrors or at the foot of the bed. For those who enter, it is more than a hotel. It is a place where the past lives on, quietly observing all who walk its haunted corridors. The Bagley remains a destination for those willing to confront its mysteries, offering a glimpse into a world where history, memory, and the unexplained coexist, and where every step may be followed by something unseen.
The Oxford House Hotel in Seattle, Washington, is a historic building that has long intrigued both visitors and locals with its rich past and chilling reputation. Once a bustling hotel catering to travelers and business people, it now stands as a place where history and the unexplained seem to intertwine. Over the decades, the Oxford House has developed a reputation for paranormal activity, attracting ghost hunters, curious tourists, and those with a fascination for the supernatural. The hotel is said to host multiple spirits, including former guests who met tragic ends on the premises. Witnesses frequently report lights flickering in empty rooms, shadowy figures pacing hallways, and whispers that echo without any discernible source. For those who enter the Oxford House, the hotel offers an experience where the past lingers in a tangible, sometimes unsettling way. From the earliest reports of unusual activity, guests have described the sensation of being watched as they move through the hallways. Some guests feel cold drafts sweep across rooms or hallways, even when windows and doors are firmly closed. Staff members, particularly those working night shifts, have reported seeing fleeting shadows at the edges of their vision, shadows that seem to vanish the moment they are directly observed. These subtle but persistent phenomena create an atmosphere in which visitors feel a constant awareness of unseen presences. Lights flickering without explanation are among the most common experiences at the Oxford House. Guests have reported lamps dimming and brightening on their own, ceiling fixtures pulsing erratically, or overhead lights turning off entirely while hallways remain occupied. In some instances, the lights appear to respond to the movements of those nearby, intensifying as someone approaches or flickering out as they step away. One guest, staying on the second floor, recalled sitting in a room while the chandelier above her swayed and dimmed, casting elongated shadows that danced along the walls. Such inexplicable electrical anomalies heighten the sense that the building is more than just walls and rooms, suggesting that unseen forces may be interacting with the environment. Shadowy figures are another frequent phenomenon at the Oxford House. Guests report seeing shapes moving through hallways, sometimes pausing at doorways or stairwells before vanishing. One visitor described glimpsing a man in early 20th century attire pacing near the elevator shaft, only to disappear when approached. Another guest recounted seeing a woman standing silently in a corner of the hallway, her outline faint but distinct, before fading into the darkness. These apparitions are rarely threatening, but they are vivid enough to leave an indelible impression, giving the impression that the hotel retains the echoes of those who once stayed or worked there. Whispers add an additional layer of unease to the Oxford House experience. Guests have reported hearing faint voices in empty rooms or along desolate corridors, sometimes repeating words or names that seem lost to time. One visitor on the third floor described waking in the middle of the night to a soft voice calling her name repeatedly. When she opened her door to investigate, the hallway was completely empty, and the sound faded into silence. Staff members have had similar experiences, hearing murmurs in rooms that are otherwise unoccupied, reinforcing the belief that the building is permeated with residual energy. Certain areas of the Oxford House are particularly prone to activity. The older wings, hallways adjacent to stairwells, and rooms on the second and third floors frequently appear in reports of hauntings. Guests in these areas have reported cold spots moving unpredictably across rooms, lights that flicker on and off, and the feeling of unseen hands brushing against their shoulders or arms during the night. Housekeeping and maintenance staff also recount experiences of objects shifting, doors moving without cause, and shadows appearing briefly in hallways. These areas seem to act as focal points for whatever energy or spirits inhabit the building, offering some of the most intense and memorable encounters. The hotel's tragic history contributes to its spectral presence. Over the decades, numerous guests and staff members have passed away, some under sudden or unexplained circumstances. Local lore suggests that the spirits of these individuals remain tethered to the building, making their presence known through subtle signs or direct apparitions. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Oxford House have documented cold spots, shadowy figures, and audio anomalies, providing further evidence that the hotel is a site of significant paranormal activity. Some believe that both residual hauntings, echoes of past events, and intelligent spirits coexist within the hotel, interacting with guests in unpredictable ways. Despite its haunted reputation, the Oxford House continues to attract visitors who are drawn to its history, charm, and mysteries. Travelers often come hoping to witness the unexplained or simply to experience the building's unique atmosphere. Many leave with stories of fleeting shadows, flickering lights, and whispers that seem to call from the past. Even those who do not directly encounter apparitions often feel the weight of history, the sense that countless lives have passed through the halls and left their mark. Staff members at the Oxford House have developed a familiarity with the unusual occurrences. Night clerks, maintenance personnel, and housekeeping staff often witness lights flickering, doors moving independently, or shadows at the edge of vision. Many accept these phenomena as part of the building's character, sharing stories with new employees while maintaining professional duties. Their experiences suggest that the hotel's haunted nature is pervasive, influencing both guests and those who spend significant time in its spaces. The Oxford House Hotel stands as a testament to the enduring presence of history and memory. Guests encounter a building where time feels fluid, shadows move independently of light, lights flicker without explanation, and whispers echo from empty rooms. For those who stay, it offers more than lodging. is a place where the past coexists with the present. Where spirits of former guests, the Oxford House remains a destination for those drawn to the mysteries of the past. A place where every flicker of light, every shadow, and every whisper reminds visitors that the hotel is more than just a building. It is a living repository of memory, loss, and the unexplained. There you have it, 25 haunted hotels in Washington, where the past never checks out. From historic downtown landmarks to remote mountain lodges, these hotels are more than just buildings. They are vessels of memory, tragedy, and lingering spirits. Shadowy figures, flickering lights, and unexplained whispers remind us that in some places, the night never ends, and the guests never truly leave. If tonight's journey through haunted hotels sent chills down your spine, make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, and join us for more explorations into abandoned buildings, haunted towns, and the mysteries that linger just beyond the light. Keep your doors locked, your eyes open, and your courage steady. Because in Washington's haunted hotels, checkout is never guaranteed, and the spirits are always watching. Stay brave, stay curious, and good night.